post.
Yeah, we'll start that now. It should just take a second.
All right, and while we're getting that ready, can we bring in, let's see, let's do Paul Jordan first. Liz does have her hand raised. Do we know why that is?
Because Liz is a library reappointment interview this evening.
Okay.
You have two of them from the library. So I don't know where you want to start with.
Start with planning and then we'll do the two library.
Very good. Okay, here it comes.
All right, Paul, you've been moved in to be a panelist here. If you could unmute yourself, and if you want to be seen, you can click on that little video icon. There you go. Welcome to your interview here. We'll be gentle. As you have probably seen these things before, basically we're just going to ask you a few questions. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring for this position on the planning board. The first basic question is, what drew you to apply for the planning board, and what qualifications do you bring to it that will serve it well?
Sure. Well, I've lived in town for 23 years. We bought our home here on High Street in 1998. Raised a family here with a great school system, and just fell in love with the town. If I'm not out sailing in Point Judith Pond in the summertime, you'll find me, biking the back roads, South Kingstown, Washington County, and I just love the landscape down here, the mix of villages and the farm fields, the ocean vistas. It's been my sense, and all the time that I've been here, that the town is very well run. We seem to avoid some of the controversy that some of our neighboring communities have. I think the political leadership, the boards and commissions, the professional staff in town hall have done a really great job of keeping the character of the town that we all love so much. And I have time now. I think I would like to be a part of maintaining that legacy. So hence my application.
Thank you. Questions for Paul?
Paul Rory McEntee. My understanding is that your work experience is primarily in the GIS, as a GIS planner. Can you kind of elaborate on your experience there and how that might fit in well with the planning board?
Sure. So I've been I'm sorry, go ahead.
I also understand that you were on the Affordable Housing Collaborative for beginning of its inception in the first 3 years. Can you maybe talk about your experience there and how
Sure.
that can also potentially lend a hand to the planning board as well?
Yeah, so let me address the first part. So I've been the supervising GIS specialist at DEM since 1999. And so that's certainly given me broad exposure to the work that DEM does, both in the environmental protection and natural resources side. It's interesting, I'm housed in the Office of Planning and Development. And when we're doing projects, new state recreational facilities, we have to apply for permits just like everyone else. And so I understand the need for the regulations, but I also see the frustration sometimes that our own developers see in getting the approvals that they need to move forward with state projects. In my time at DEM, working across all these programs, it's really given me the 40,000-foot view, literally of the landscape with GIS, but also just a great sense of how government works and sometimes maybe how it doesn't work too well. My sort of portfolio has grown a little bit over the years. I initially was doing just GIS stuff, but as people have left and budgets have been cut, you start assuming other responsibilities just sort of by default. And so I've gotten involved a lot with grant management, particularly, as Rob knows, Land and Water Conservation Fund with the National Park Service. I've been involved in scoring open space and recreation grants. I work very closely with our land acquisition folks, looking at, we get a lot of applications for open space grants, and we have our own limited funding at the state level for acquiring land. And so having to look at, what makes a good acquisition versus what's just an available piece of land. So I've had a lot of good experience at DEM, I think, in sort of a lot of issues that are relevant to the planning board. As far as the Affordable Housing Collaborative, I was the chair for a year or two. I can't remember when my term was there. I'm sure somebody has a record of it. It was a little bit frustrating in that we really didn't have a lot of tools to work with. Developers would come in and we would talk to them about the benefits of, maybe getting an additional unit if they could do something with affordable housing, but we didn't have a lot to work with. And it's my understanding now that the town is moving forward with cottage zoning, and I may be loosening up the rules on accessory dwelling units. When I was with the Affordable Housing Collaborative, we got a visit of the cottages on Green up in East Greenwich. Before anyone had moved in, we got a great look at those and got a chance to talk to the architect and the developers. And I was really impressed with the job they did squeezing in, I don't know if it's 6 or 8 units, including some affordable units, on a tiny piece of land that had a lot of appeal. And so I think this cottage zoning idea for South Kingstown is definitely a move in the right direction. It's an opportunity to do a lot with a little bit of land. And given that, land is a disappearing resource, and there's a lot of competition for it. Everybody wants a piece of it for something. So I think that's really exciting. And I think it will give the affordable housing folks something to be excited about.
Thank you. Other questions for Paul?
Paul, this is Brian DeCruz. One of the questions we always ask is if this position's not available, would you be interested in a different position?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I have the time on my hands. And as I said, I just love the town, and I'd certainly like to be a part of, serving wherever I can do some good.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Paul? All right.
Thank you all.
None. Thank you for coming forward. And we should be able to let you know fairly quickly. I think you are the last of our applicants. And again, thank you for throwing your hat in the ring.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And if we could bring in Liz Kroll. All right, Liz, you are in the meeting now. If you unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear you. It's that little icon down in the lower left.
Okay.
And then also,
Does that work?
That worked.
Great.
If you would like to be seen by us, there's a little video camera icon as well. There you are.
Okay.
Now
Oh,
we-
there I am. All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's my second Zoom meeting. It's very exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting. They get less exciting as you go, I have to say.
I know. Well, we've been doing them with the library now for a couple of months, and I miss meeting in the room in the Peacedale Library where you can hear people and, whatever. Anyways.
Yes, anyway. So you have, you've been serving for a couple of years on the library board, and you would like to continue serving. Tell us about your experience so far and what you hope to see happen going forward.
Okay, well, you're right. I've been on for a little over 3 years, and I've been the secretary. So I do all the minutes every month. I've missed maybe like 2 or 3 meetings in 3 years. So I've done a lot of minutes. I've helped out. We had a great speakers event last year. Thank God it was before the COVID, because we never could have all those people. And that was last fall. And it was 3 different nights of speakers. Tim Murphy arranged it. People spoke on Alzheimer's. And I don't know if you heard, we had like over 90 people each night of the 3 weeks. So I helped out at that, greeting at the door, helping people find their way downstairs in the Peacedale branch. I'm a big user of the libraries. I mean, I grew up in the 50s in Warwick, and I was always, my parents were avid library goers. So I just think it's really important. I think we're very lucky in Rhode Island to have a wonderful library system. I try to, wherever I go in Rhode Island, I visit their library. I just went to the Exeter Library. I'd never been there. It's a really nice building on 102. It's only a few years old. It's really beautiful. I've also donated, a few years ago, the library started having the museum passes, which a lot of the branches in Rhode Island have. I know I've used the one from the Narragansett Library. And I noticed when they started the program, they didn't get one from the RISD Museum. And I said, that's our beautiful library up in Providence. So I've donated for 2 years now that the library has a membership, which is for the patrons. So they can go to the library for free with their kids. And I want to continue that. Right now, unfortunately, the RISD Museum is closed to the public. So hopefully next year. I would like to continue. It's a really busy, active library, and I think the board really contributes a lot. I thought it would be very bureaucratic, but it's not. I mean, we all get very involved, and that library gets a lot of usage. I'm more familiar with the Peacedale, but we see the numbers that Laurel gives us from Hale and Kingston. So I'm really glad they reopened, because that was kind of stressful for a while. So I would love to continue for another term, and I hope you'll choose me again.
All right, thank you, Liz. Any other questions for Liz?
I have no questions, but thank you for your service on the board currently.
We have great staff at that library. Laurel and Pam are phenomenal. They are really terrific.
All right, I don't see any other questions. I want to thank you for coming.
Okay,
tonight.
great. So I just sign off?
You get to sign off. Your passion for the libraries shows, so thank you for your service.
Okay. Take care. And I was impressed by Mr. Jordan. I'll tell you, I'm an avid hiker in Rhode Island, so that he's at DEM. They're doing a great job with our hiking properties in Rhode Island. Anyways, okay, thank you.
And that brings us to, let me see here.
Donna would be next.
Donna Gilman, there it is. Yes, can you bring her in?
Did Colleen already grab her?
I did.
Oh,
Nope,
okay.
she
Thank
should be
you.
coming in.
Thank you.
All right, Donna, you are now in the meeting. If you would kindly unmute yourself using that little microphone icon. There you go. And there you are.
Video doesn't want to start.
It was there for a second. Sometimes, oh, there it is.
Okay. Let me just start
And-
my video.
We can see you now.
Good, good. Okay.
So welcome. Thank you again for coming tonight and for the service you've already provided to the town on the library board. You want to be reappointed. So perhaps the best question is, how have you found your experience? What have you enjoyed, and what do you hope to see happen going forward?
I've enjoyed my experience very much. I did serve as president of the board for a year, and I'm still an active member and would like to continue.
Good. Do you see any challenges, any opportunities for the libraries in the coming years?
Well, right now, I think just getting reopened after this COVID situation is one big one. I know that the library, they've worked on a statue called the Weaver in front of the Peacedale Library to they're getting ready to celebrate the 100th anniversary of that. So that's a big project. And to tell you the truth, I'm hoping to organize some panel discussions that can be on Zoom that's related to the history of South Kingstown. So that's one thing that I'm working on. I do have to say, I know that the library board has really participated in, well, we've really given staff appreciations, and the library does have a very good director and staff. And can't think of anything else to say offhand.
Well, that was a very good answer. Are there any other questions for Donna?
I have no questions, but Donna, thank you again for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, if there's no more questions, I guess I'll be on my merry way.
We will allow you to go on your merry way. Thank you for coming before us. We should be able to let you know fairly shortly.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, so that completes our interview section of the work session here. Now is a good time to go through the agenda, Rob.
All right, starting with licenses, we have a resolution granting a food license to Simply Thai on Fortin Road. There's a resolution granting an extension of a COVID-19 emergency temporary use permit. We'll extend it from October 31st to December 8th. There's another item related to this later in the agenda under new business that would extend that December 8th period. That was done, this ordinance setting the December 8th for the outdoor service permits was done by an ordinance on June 8th. And by its terms expires on December 8th. The governor has since expressed an interest in helping businesses stay open outdoors for as long as possible, at least through December and maybe even deep into the winter. So we have an order of notice that would change the termination date in the ordinance from December 8th. The date we've suggested is actually March 31st. So we wouldn't have to revisit that, although there's lots of opportunity for the council to define those outdoor service permits. The outdoor service permits are a modification of the general liquor license rules here in South Kingstown. The service area for every liquor license holder is defined in their license. And if you didn't have an outdoor service area defined in your license originally, when COVID hit, we allowed people who otherwise could not serve alcohol outdoors to do so. We had 16 businesses here in town that sought those permits, those temporary permits to serve outdoors. We have, initially that was done by an executive order under the emergency declaration. That date was set at the termination date for those outdoor temporary permits was set at October 31st. As I just said, the council then passed an ordinance. The date on that was 6 months from the date of passage, which was June 8th. So December 8th became the effective termination date. We have talked to the zoning official. I've talked to the zoning official and the town solicitor, and we can administratively extend most of the October 31st dates to December 8th. However, there were 3 instances where we had disturbances. And one of the conditions that the council had expressed during their discussion back in June was that we want to make sure that we're not creating problems in neighborhoods by going outdoors. We've had 3 businesses that had outdoor service areas identified in their temporary permits that have resulted in calls to the police because of noise. One of them actually was not related to entertainment. It was just noisy staff at the end of the night. That issue was resolved pretty quickly. The 2 remaining noise complaints were entertainment-based complaints, noise related to ongoing music in both cases. One of the applicants or one of the businesses that had those complaints has not actually sought an extension of their outdoor service permit. They're going to have their permit expire on October 31st. And unless they come in and make a request at a future date, that permit will expire on October 31st. The other business, the Pump House, has come in and has requested a extension of their outdoor service area permit to December 8th. And presumably, if the council were to extend the date, they'd want to go beyond that, just like all of the other businesses with outdoor service permits. This has been a fairly contentious issue, particularly over the last few weeks. And I think we're going to spend a good deal of time hearing from the business owner, operator, and the neighbors to the immediate north of the facility. Moving from licenses. We have a communication from Susan Hines and Deborah McNally concerning events at Lavender Waves Farm. This item has come up a number of times. Ms. Hines had sent a letter in last meeting. It was on the consent agenda. She was concerned that that didn't seem to be an appropriate way to handle that letter. She has since sent another letter and has asked that it be put on other than as a consent item. She believes that it's appropriate for the council to consider a moratorium on farm events. As the council knows, you received a memorandum from the town solicitor at the last meeting indicating that this is currently the issue is currently pending before the planning board with regard to Lavender Waves in specific. And on your referral, the general idea of a moratorium is also pending before the planning board. So I don't know really what's to be done with this letter other than, again, refer it to the planning board, but whatever the council's wish is, we will pursue that course of action.
Rob, it's Mike, if I could just interrupt for a second.
Sure.
The reason it hasn't yet been on the planning board agenda is because they need a DOT permit in order to move forward in any way at all. And so the planning board basically said, we don't even want to discuss this if you can't get the DOT permit. So that, just so that everyone knows why it hasn't yet shown up on a planning board agenda.
Right. Although the planning board could, in theory, pursue the moratorium.
Well, that's true. That's true. But you know what our advice is on that legally. We don't think that it fits any of the criteria to justify a moratorium. But in any event, you are right. They could move forward on that issue.
Okay. So again, I think the proper action on this one is probably referral to the planning board or to the planning director to follow up. Item K is letters in support and in opposition to extending the outdoor service permit at the pump house. I'd suggest that these folks may best be invited to participate when the license issue comes up, rather than having the item appear as a licensing issue, as an email or correspondence issue, and then again as public comment. I think it may be possible. I've spoken to a number of the folks who have written letters, and I think folks are happy to, and I spoke to the business owner, I think folks are happy to have this all done and over with after one bite at the apple, rather than coming at it at 3 different points on the agenda. Unfortunately, the way we do agendas, it has to appear on 3 different parts of the agenda. Nonetheless, I think they can all be dealt with up front.
And Rob, excuse me, this is Mike again. Are we all set on the procedure we're going to follow tonight? Are you going to talk to the council about that?
So I did speak to Dan Collins, and I also spoke to one of the neighbors who's been sort of organizing thoughts and ideas around this, and actually wrote a very extensive letter to the council that was emailed this morning. They've both agreed that they don't want to see this drag on and on. Nobody wants to be here at 3 o'clock in the morning. The procedure that they've, I don't want to say agreed to, but suggested during the course of that conversation is a opening by each side, 6 minutes for the applicant to explain why the application should be approved, 6 minutes for the folks who are opposed to explain why the application should be denied, and then maybe follow up to 2 minutes per person on just whatever side of the issue they happen to be on. Not trying to trade off or do anything fancy, but just limiting it to an opening statement which summarizes the pros and the cons, and then follow up. And I'd suggest that everyone knows at this point, we're trying to avoid repetitive statements. You know, if the summary has already said it, there's no need to say it again. That kind of thing is certainly something everybody on both sides would like to see. Nobody wants to see this go on and on and on all night.
So Brian, you'll have to set the ground rules right up front as we discussed. 6 minutes, and then 2 minutes. And if you've already said it, no need to say it again. Council has received all the materials and is well aware of the positions of each side.
I agree.
All right, and then under new business, a couple of interesting procurement things. The salt, road salt contract is not one of them. That's just a must-do contract. On the asset management software contract, this has actually been a very long-standing project. It's taken us a long time to review and get to a point where we've got a software package that all of the departments in town think is going to meet their needs. There's actually quite a bit of enthusiasm about the vendor that has been selected or is being recommended for a contract here. And having an asset management software package, particularly one with the GIS capability that the selection committee has recommended, will be a tremendous boon for us. It will be very, very nice for us to be able to point and click in a map and get information about all of the capital resources owned and being maintained by the town. I know John would love to provide a detailed explanation, and I think a number of the department heads would be happy to explain to the council why this is such an important tool for them. It's John actually in his memo refers to this as something akin to the Munis financial system that we use for all of our budgeting. And it is just that. It's a tool that we'll be able to use as a single database to make sure that everybody knows, or everybody can at least find out what's going on with every piece of equipment and every facility in town. Very important step forward for us. The resolution authorizing amendment to the Smithco oil contract. This is a sort of confusing statement. It's 11 cents per gallon by transportation increment. That's 11 cents per gallon for delivery, above what the global price is. We pay the global price in our existing contract. This is the same delivery charge that we've always paid. It's 11 cents per gallon per delivery. The transportation increment is delivery, not mile or anything crazy like that. And then we're back to the temporary outdoor service permits. As I explained previously, this is a change in the ordinance to extend the date that would allow for restaurants and outdoor serving areas to continue to do so for some time into the future beyond December 8th. Again, the recommendation we've proposed is March 31st. Resolution ratifying executive order, an executive order. This is one of the most boring ones. This is really just a mirror of the governor's travel restrictions, and we can talk about that when we get there. There's a couple of funny things about it that I'm not sure need to be there, but it's really just a mirror of what the governor has put in place for general baseline COVID restrictions. Resolution authorizing the governor to direct the DEM to work with or reach out to the National Wildlife Reserve folks to begin working toward either the cessation or the modification of hunting at the Chaffee Preserve. That letter was sent to council members. What we're proposing and what this resolution would direct is that each member of the council sign on as a member of the council to a letter expressing the community's disappointment at the decision by the Fish and Wildlife Service to extend hunting at the wildlife preserve, both at the Trustham Pond and at the Stedman units of the wildlife preserve or the wildlife refuge. This is a letter that we were asked to consider by the attorney for the folks down in the Trustham Pond area, And we also have had requests similar to this in the last couple of weeks from folks at the Stedman who live adjacent to the Stedman unit of the wildlife preserve or refuge. So that's a letter just, or a resolution just directing me to coordinate signatures for members of council who may want to sign such a letter.
Very good. Thank you. That gets us through the agenda, and it is 7:31. So let's get the regular meeting started. And Sue, just let me know when we're ready. Good to go.
Anytime you are ready, we're just taking the staff members out
Well,
at this moment.
all right. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Monday, October 26th. The time is 7:31. Our first order of business, as always, is the pledge to the flag. The clerk would please recite that for us.
Everyone will join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins,
Here.
Council Vice President DeCruz,
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso,
Here.
Councilman McEntee,
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve for A and B.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Rory, a second by Deb. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 5, the consent agenda.
Deb Kelso, motion to approve item 5.
Rory McEntee, I'll second that motion.
Motion by Deb, second by Rory. Any discussion on this? Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously as well. And that carries us to item 6, licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a victualling license to Lam Fong LLC, doing business as Simply Thai, 99 Fortin Road, Kingston. Application by Lam Fong Voravangsa, member. Continued from the October 13th meeting. Let's see here. Have we heard if anyone will attend on behalf of this item?
They have been contacted. If there is anyone in the audience that is representing this license, if you would please raise your hand, be recognized.
And if you are on your phone, hit *9 to raise your hand. Is that correct?
We don't have any phone call attendees at this moment.
Susan, when you said that they've been contacted,
Yes,
meaning we've gotten a response on the other end as well?
I'm not certain. They're hard to reach. I've had my staff email them more than once. And I don't know whether we've actually been able to connect by telephone. I
I'll
do
take
not
a-
see anyone. I think language is an issue here.
I'll take a ride there this week and see if I can speak to the owner regarding it.
That would be great. Thank you.
I do.
Oh, wait, Sarah, tell me at the end.
We might.
Okay.
So, and you will need to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Yeah, you should be ready to speak.
Page, please.
And you may need to mute, if you're listening to us through any other device, mute the device.
Okay.
And then just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Gary Russo. Resident here, South Kingstown. Just kind of speaking on behalf of the pump house.
Oh,
No,
Is that what I'm here for?
no.
I'm
No.
early. Never mind.
sorry.
All right, I'm unmuting. I'm muting.
All right, so we will, on 6A, we will, wait, maybe somebody will show up tonight, likely not. But Bryant, I think that's a great idea if you want to drop by there in person. And with that, we can go to 6B. I will recuse myself from this discussion as the applicant is my brother.
Abel Jovili, I will also be recusing. The Pump House Music Works is a member of the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. The discussions that I've had with Mike Ursillo, the town solicitor, when I took the job was that if it were a matter of routine, that was a routine matter, that there was no problem with me voting, but if it was other than routine, I should recuse so as not to give the appearance of any impropriety. So I will also recuse. Thank you.
All right. Joe and Abel have recused. My name is Brian DeCruz. I'm the Vice President of the Council. That leaves myself, Deborah, and Rory. So we understand that there was some conversations with both sides recently with the town manager that we were going to limit introductions to 6 minutes by a representative of each side. And then once we got through the 6 minutes on each side, we'd allow for up to 2 minutes for comments from anyone else in the audience that wants to comment. What we do ask is that we've received numerous emails regarding this matter, both for and against, and the council has reviewed all of those emails and letters that we received. So please try not to repeat the same thing twice so that we can allow everyone to actually comment that wants to comment. So that being said, guess we'll let Dan go first. No, different Dan.
Oh,
Dan Collins. All right, Dan, you're in the meeting. Oh, there you are. All you have to do is unmute yourself.
Hello, guys.
Hello, council.
Good evening, council. We prepared a statement to try and get everything into 6 minutes here. Cynthia is gonna read it out to you guys. Here we go.
Yeah, good evening, council. I am the treasurer of the Pump House and have been involved with the Pump House since its inception. As you know, we're here to request an extension of the temporary permit outside to December 31st, 2020. As you know, the permit allowed us to move the venue out onto the lawn and also to have a bar under the portico so that we could, in effect, take our business outside. This was an incredible lifeline for us. At the time that this happened, our doors had closed in March. We had 5 months of no income. So I can't thank you enough for doing this program for our business and for other businesses. On July 10th, we were able to put on our first concert. It was scary and it was a success. Since then, every weekend, unless it rained, we would have concerts on the green. And really the whole fall and summer seasons were great. I mean, lots of people came, musicians were happy. The community seemed to love the performances. All in all, we had more than 70 bands play, all different types of music that I don't even understand. I've never heard of them, but jazz, rock, reggae, acoustic, some things I do recognize also were part of the program. We successfully partnered with food trucks, which was incredibly difficult to figure out how to do. Food trucks are unusual people to deal with. We were very grateful for their participation. It made our venue all that much more enjoyable. People could come, they could listen to music, they could get a bite to eat, they could get a drink. And so once again, we are grateful for your providing this opportunity to the community. There have been challenges with the outdoor venue. The first one, of course, are all the COVID regulations. And I'm proud to say that we had an investigation and we passed with flying colors. There is a lot involved with these regulations. I'm sure you probably know most of them. But we would have up to 100 people come into the venue. We managed to have a process where people all came to the table. They gave their name, their phone number, they got a bracelet. There were signs everywhere about sanitizing, about no dancing. Unfortunately, it makes it sound like it's a miserable place. They loved it. In any event, all of these, social distancing also, were issues that we confronted, and I think we did it very well. We also took care of parking issues. We leased parking at Sons of Liberty. When the food truck events happened, they filled up our entire lot. So we made parking available for those kinds of events. All in all, after trial and error, we believe that we were successful on almost every front. Unfortunately, as we all know, there were noise complaints, particularly with our closest neighborhood, which is Tri-Pond Court. This is not new. We had many complaints when we were indoors, and many of them were from Tri-Pond Court. At that time, though, we understood from the police, actually, or from anyone, that there were no regulations or ordinance levels that could help us resolve any of those issues. What is new for us now is that, well, for one thing, we have the building inspector informed us that there was an ordinance that did have a decibel rating in it. And this ordinance, we don't agree that it is appropriate for a music venue, but we all agreed that we would use a 60 decibel level for appropriate sound for music at the border of the receiving property or the residential property. As you know, we're in a commercial zone and our neighbors are in a residential zone. We also had the help of Rob Zarnetsky, who started a mediation with the neighbors and with us, which I think was a fabulous idea, and I think it worked very well. What we did was we arranged to have readings, decibel readings, for every single music concert for a period of, I don't know whether it was 4 weeks or 6 weeks. What happened is the police met up with a sound engineer, and we got readings of all the music at the residential properties. Now, with the very few exceptions, we discovered that we were within the approved decibel rating. It was either 60 or and many times much less than 60. We also agreed to a curfew of 9 o'clock, which I think was a big step for us. I mean, we only had the weekends and we only had a few of them before it was going to get cold. I mean, really every minute that we could be out there was a help to us. But we understood that a curfew of 9 o'clock would be something that would be appreciated by the neighbors. We have also continued to try to find ways to minimize the noise from the pump house. We tried an experiment with a tent over the band. It was actually quite effective. Unfortunately, it's very expensive to rent a tent. We kept it for a while. We also put covers on the amps. We set up walls within the tent, which had insulation in them. And all these efforts really did help with mitigating the noise.
Cynthia, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're at 7 minutes.
Okay.
But you can continue. I mean, if you just want to quickly surmise.
Well, I mean, I think that the good news at the end of this is that we did get money from the state, and we are able at this point, and we've actually bought a tent that's on its way. We also have money that we're putting forth a fence along the border between Tri-Pond and the pump house. There is a fence there already. This would be a higher fence. It would have a rubber sheathing to it. So I think that there are ongoing measures. We really are very committed to doing everything we can about the situation. We want to be good neighbors. I think we have made every attempt to be a good neighbor, but we are committed to continuing to do that.
All right, thank you very much. Susan, do we have a representative from the other side that was supposed to speak? I can't tell by the names.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is that you may want to ask who will be representing the neighborhood and see who raises their hand.
Casey, okay. Why don't we bring Casey into the meeting? Susan, if you could put Dan back out and the attendees for now, I'd appreciate it.
Hello.
Hi, Casey. Are you the representative for the neighborhood?
Yeah, I spoke with my neighbors, and we're trying to keep this as concise as possible to make this efficient as we can. We don't want to be repetitive. We're trying to be efficient. So I'm going to speak, and then I think some of my neighbors are on the line, and they might want to follow up as well.
Are you what are you using? Are you using a laptop or a? I'm trouble hearing you.
Okay, let me try something.
Hello?
Yeah, much better. Let me.
Okay.
But
Sorry about that.
Okay, so if you could speak closer to the mic, because you're still now we can understand.
Sure.
you.
How is it? Okay. Is that good?
What does the rest of the council feel? Does that sound okay to you on your end? Okay. Deb, you good?
Speak again, please, Casey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I said, we're going to try to give everyone at least approximately 6 minutes. Of course, we know no one's perfect, so I mean, if you go over, I'll let you know when you kind of have to wrap up.
Okay. First, I just want to thank the town council for taking this time. I also want to thank Town Manager, Chief of Police, Dan Collins, and everyone from the Pump House. People have been working for a while to try to resolve this, so we appreciate it. I also want to make one thing clear. Myself and my neighbors agree that we have no intention of shutting the Pump House down. We think they do a great thing for the community. Obviously, people love it, and we support their mission. And we also recognize the challenges that they're facing due to COVID. And having to move outside. You know, when I saw the stage going up, I had concerns. The first show that they had, I think, was a fundraiser event, and I brought my kids down. It was really pleasant. It was a nice experience. Since that time, it's changed significantly. You know, we have basically a full-on rock concert 400 feet from where my 3 children sleep. We love live music, we support it, but it's, you know, blaring within our house. You know, I think people have been working hard to try to do this, but ultimately there's been no change. There's been a steady progression. You know, during the period, I think beginning of August is when we started working with them on basically a weekly basis. And since that time, I mean, the police reports that Dan provided to the council, they contain 22 violations of the ordinance during that time that we were all working together to try to, you know, resolve things. And during that time, we were really hesitant to call the police. I'd spoken to the chief and said, we don't want to waste, you know, resources. If people are working towards a goal, then we'll be as patient as we can. It's just gone on too long. You know, just last night, Sunday night, my 4-year-old, you know, woke up asking me, you know, why the pump house was so loud. It affects their ability to sleep. We've tried putting air conditioners in. We ran air conditioners with noise machines in their rooms. You know, electric costs are a lot higher. We did that as long as we could, but it's just too cold to keep the air conditioners in the windows now. And it still continues. You know, I think Dan has spoken to us and been very, you know, respectful and trying to work on things, but it's just ineffective. I mean, and, you know, to say that they're limiting their, you know, their events to 9 p.m. is just not accurate. I mean, they have a post of an event from October 9th. The time stated is 7 to 10. You know, they don't wrap up by 9. That doesn't happen. You know, there's restrictions on the bar. The bar, people have to cross a public street to access the bar. If we want to take my kids down to the pond to go for a hike, we have to navigate through all these people walking back and forth across the street with alcohol. You know, I think their license was supposed to restrict that to, you know, 2 certain times during the show. We try to hike in the woods to get away from it on the weekend, and all we hear is just blasting music. We can't fish in the pond. I went over there one time and was told I had to pay to get on town property by Rocky Brook Reservoir. So, you know, it's just taken over this little area, and you know, and we just want the town to reconsider this issue, because when they got this license to do this, you know, they were a luthier guitar building school. They wanted to have a platform for their students to play acoustic instruments. They went before the council. They said, we'll do a few events a month. And then they, you know, it was continued. They came back, asked for, you know, unlimited ability to host events. But it was in the context of acoustic shows for people to showcase their instruments, potluck type events, you know, folksy crowds. That is what they were. And their own website says that they were a guitar building school turned rock venue. They hold themselves out to be the, you know, premier rock venue for South Kingstown, and it's sitting right in a residential neighborhood. So what we asked the town to do, we're not asking you to, you know, deny this resolution. We think that it's very possible for the Pump House to do what they want to do, support the arts, provide a platform and a venue for musicians, for people to go and have a good time, but it could be done in a way that's less intrusive and, you know, doesn't have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. The noise ordinance of 60, you know, that helps a bit, but I had to buy a noise meter. I go out there. I'm not going to call the cops if it's not a violation. I go out there and I have to take readings. It's clear that Dan's approach has been really to keep the levels at the maximum allowable limit. Walking around, if it's at 59.9, he's good, okay. But there's really no margin for error. So a police car rolls up and, it gets quiet. The police take readings. It's quiet. The police leave. It goes up. But it's been really challenging for us to demonstrate how this is impacting us when, the cops come take a reading and it's below the limit. They're controlling, they have the ability to control it when they want to. Last weekend they had a violation. The band started screaming, making it as loud as possible while the cops were there. If they got another one last weekend, they would have had their permit revoked. So then we saw the tent go back up. And of course, last weekend, there was no problem. So when they want to do it in a way that's respectful, they can, but they haven't done it until, they've been forced to. And as I mentioned, 22 violations since we started working on this issue. They got one notice of violation. So we've been extremely patient. We've spent money, we've spent time trying to do what we can on our end. But at this point, the ability for me in the summer to have friends over or family over and sit in the backyard and enjoy my backyard, I can't do it while the pump house is operating outside. It's just you can't do it. So we've been really patient. We want them to continue. We just want the town to restrict their usage and enforce it and do it in a way where we don't have to constantly be the ones calling and trying to follow up on this stuff. If they had, done the things they said they're doing, like restricting the bar hours and sticking to a 9 p.m. curfew, we wouldn't be here right now. So that's all we're asking, to just limit the restrictions that are on their current license and extend it so they can continue.
Thank you very much for your opening statement.
Thank you.
Now we're going to open it up to any of the attendees that would like to speak on this matter.
Mr. Vice President,
But
if I can we hear from the Chief Ewing Chow about his findings? I'd like to hear from the chief first before we hear from the public.
Sure. And might I suggest it might also be useful to get a summary from the zoning official as well.
Thank you.
I agree with that. So if we can bring in Chief Joel Ewing Chow, I'd appreciate that. And Jamie?
Good evening. Sorry, there was a lapse.
No problem. Susan, can you put Casey back in the attendees, please? Thank you. All right, it's all yours.
Mr. Vice President, if I might very good, we're good.
So good evening, Town Council. To answer the question that was posed, we have been there numerous times to the pump house area for noise violations. Sometimes when we do respond, the levels that we see are below 60. Sometimes they are above 60. And we have coordinated with Jamie Gorman. The last report that we had from 2 weeks ago, the issue we had there was it got louder as the officer was there. And there were some members of the band that were boisterous with their ideas of wanting the music to be louder. We're commenting about our presence as police officers there. We understand that's the band. That's not necessarily was difficult to control for Dan to control that. But we have been there before previously on several occasions where the numbers have been above 60 decibels. And like I said, sometimes we go and the numbers are below 60 decibels. So it really, it depends on maybe what type of band is playing. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. I'm not sure of that, or how loud they have the sound engineer puts it.
Chief, and the readings you're taking are with the department's equipment?
Yes, so we have a sound meter that we purchased to take readings like this, and that's what we use, yes.
And how was 60 decibels decided upon? Where does that number come from? So I don't understand about sound. So if you could help me, I'd appreciate it.
That's from the, yeah, Jamie, you might want to speak to this one. This is from the ordinance.
Hello, council. So section 507 of the zoning ordinance regulates commercial and industrial uses. The purpose is for performance standards and the control. So the measurements of basically any operation or activity on a commercial property would be regulated to between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 60 decibels, and that's taken from the residential property, which Tri-Pond would be residential. So the pump house is a commercial neighborhood zone, but on two sides it's zoned residential. The readings were in excess of 60. I was able to determine we have 3 confirmed, but there was an error with the calibrating of the equipment between the towns and the engineers, a sound level reader. But once that was calibrated, everything basically past mid-September into October was accurate for both the sound engineer and the town's equipment.
But Jamie, I just want to make sure we understand that. Initially, we were measuring, our device was not calibrated properly.
Correct.
So we did have readings that show in the report above 60 that were later determined to have been measured using the wrong calibration. They were using the wrong scale of measurement. We made the calibration in conjunction with the pump house's consulting sound engineer, got our equipment calibrated with theirs so that they, everybody agreed that we were actually measuring the sound using the right measurement scale. And since then, there have been 3 instances where the numbers exceeded the 60 decibel limit.
That's correct.
Quick question on the calibration. When you said you calibrated with the sound engineer's equipment, or is it calibrated independently?
It is calibrated independently. I shouldn't use the word calibration. We made sure that we were both getting the same measurements, which was a second confirmation that the measurement scale was correct.
Thank you. Does anyone from the council have any?
Chief Rory McEntee, I got a few follow-up questions. You say you've had numerous visits for noise complaints, sometimes above 60, sometimes below 60. How often do you get complaints? Every weekend night? How often are you going over there?
Normally, we were getting complaints almost, I would say, almost every weekend for a period of time. And we would go over, take the readings, and our officers would record those in a report, and then we would follow up during the week. We've been over there for many calls for complaints of noise, and not every time do we find a reading that is over the ordinance level of 60. Sometimes it's under, and like I said, the police department, we go there and we're just simply taking a record and memorializing what the decibel readings are from the complainant's property.
Now, is there a typical time of night or day for which you go over there to respond to a complaint, or is it various times throughout the day?
Most of it, from what I saw, was after 5 o'clock. Usually 4 to 8 o'clock at night is when we get the majority of the calls that would come in, and we'd go over there and take the readings.
Now, from your experience and from the police force experience visiting the site, do you believe that the noise does tamper off after 9 p.m. or does it continue thereafter?
From our reports, we go there, and the latest I think we've been there was right around 9 o'clock. There might have been one other report we were there a little bit later, but it usually does tamper off after 9. I think there was 1 or 2 police reports that indicated that the noise was louder towards 10 o'clock with the music. By the time we went there, it was pretty much tapered off.
Thank you.
I have another question. If 60 decibels is acceptable from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., what is acceptable from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
That would be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., it drops to 50 decibels.
Okay, so when you reported out before, you said 60 was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the ordinance.
It's, I'm corrected. It's 7 to 9 p.m.
Okay, so what is the decibel level from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
50 decibels.
50. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Rob, I have a quick question. I was just thinking about. So, the executive order was for restaurants, right? So,
Yeah. So it was for restaurants. The state has provided some guidance related to outdoor activities and venues that are like restaurants. And we had a conversation with the Department of Commerce, Department of Business Regulation about this. So long as food was being served, this was likened to an outdoor theater, an outdoor dinner theater kind of activity. So it's the fact that they had food that made them restaurant-like, which made it possible for them to take the benefit of, or have the benefit of the ordinance and the original executive order.
right, so you need to have the food trucks present, or
So the COVID regulations that the state has talk about restaurants and restaurant-like activities. Food is an essential part of a restaurant. The state guidance on this talks about caterers in particular. If you have a caterer, you're like a restaurant.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to allowing attendees to speak up to 2 minutes. I see that we're going to take them in the order that I see the hands that are raised. The first hand that I see that's raised is phone number starting with area code 407. If you could bring that person in, Susan. Phone number 407, you were just unmuted. Now you're muted again. If you could unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
I'm not 407, I'm a 508.
All right, we're going to
Would
allow
you
you.
please identify yourself for the record?
Sure. Jerry Russo, resident of South Kingstown, and a musician, and I've played the Pump House along with my wife in a couple of bands over the years, and certainly had the opportunity during this move to outdoors. And just come from a musician standpoint, I've always found the Pump House to be very responsible with monitoring the sound level. And just want to kind of put a little perspective on this 60 decibel thing. The volume level that I'm speaking at right now is 60 decibels. It's a conversational level. It's the sound of a dishwasher. It's the sound of an average business office. That's the sound level at 60 decibels. When you get up to 70 decibels, would be more like a vacuum cleaner, that sort of thing. And 75, 85 decibels would be, you could have a chamber music in a small auditorium reaching those kinds of sound levels. Not that I've heard any chamber music coming out of the Pump House, but to give you an idea, rock concerts are like 100, 105 decibels, loud in a big loud venue like at the Dunk or something like that. So just to give an idea, the 60 decibel thing we're talking about is conversational level of sound. So if that's being measured at the property line or at the residence, then that's somebody sitting around with an acoustic guitar and no amplifier and singing to a crowd. I don't think anyone would want to hear a musician's play on a stage without any amplification at all. So I just want to put a little perspective of what 60 decibels is. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Susan, if you could bring in Phil Eden.
Hey, everybody, how are you doing?
We're good. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted again. So if you might want to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Eden. I live on 108, a few blocks away from the pump house. It sounds like a little bit further than my neighbor Casey lives. I totally hear Casey's concerns, and I don't have young children, so I don't want to undermine what he was saying. But I do have to say, I really support the pump house. I want them to be able to continue with reasonable restrictions. It was my wife and I's first date out after lockdown. It was really nice to be out in public and seeing people again. And now as winter's setting in, I think it's important for the town to have places where we can go and celebrate and listen to music and have a beer. So I can hear them from my house. It doesn't bother me at all. I've talked to my neighbors on both sides. They both can hear the music too, and have said it doesn't bother them. So I would just encourage us to let the pump house continue doing what they're doing. I think it's really important for the town. And whatever reasonable restrictions, it sounds like they're making a good faith effort to follow the restrictions. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Susan, can we bring in Krista Russo? Krista, you are now in the meeting. You should be unmuted. If you want us to be able to see you, you can hit the video camera.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm fine with not being seen.
Okay.
But I'm here and I'm real. Good evening. I'm a resident of Wakefield. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. On December 19th, 2009, my husband and I had our wedding at the pump house. Now it was a different owner. And as many of you know, after that, the pump house transferred their business to another operator, and that business did not survive. The pump house was closed for quite a while, and being an important town landmark to all of us, that made me really sad. Shady Lee Guitars and Dan Collins purchased the pump house with the staff and volunteers. He revamped it, improved upon it, made it into an incredible guitar making studio and music venue, as well as a place where you could go for lessons or to host your event affordably. I've had the opportunity to be involved in the current pump house music venue since their opening day. Our trio Greyhound Dream played the first day, and it was a beautiful community event. From that very first day, the pump house has been a very special place for our entire town. It has been in the best of Rhode Island for music venues, not just rock, but all kinds of music. This brings people to our town who also spend money in other places. The pump house has held Thanksgiving open mics where everyone brings a potluck item and different performers get up to play. It's a wonderful, connecting community day. They have also had holiday events for children, screenings for movies, poetry readings for local artists, and had many charitable events, some of which my bands have played in for free to support the cause. Those charities include local food pantries and pet shelters. Our oldest son interned there and helped to set up the sound system initially. The pump house has provided a concert series for local youth who featured them on Thursday nights in the summer. And I can tell you that our middle son's band played, and it was wonderful for family and community alike. The pump house is also an event venue, which is very affordable. We've held our oldest son's graduation party there and my own 50th birthday party there, even though I look much younger,
Krista?
both of which were fantastic, which featured family and friends. Yep.
You've gone over 2 minutes. If you could just finish up, I'd appreciate
Yeah,
it.
great. If I could just close up. So having been in, two of the bands that have played at the new outdoor area, I can tell you how very conscientious Dan and Cynthia and Bonnie and Claire and the whole pump house family and staff and volunteers have been to make sure that all rules are being followed. My husband and I volunteered to check people in for a music festival one day for 8 or 9 hours, where we counted the people coming in, checked out the reservations, took every name and phone number so they would be available for contact tracing, handed out masks when 2 of the people did not have masks, let them know the correct way to the bathroom and to answer any questions they might have. Folks thanked us for our guidance. People young and old from town and from Boston and all over were so appreciative that the pump house is going to these great efforts to modify their business so that people could come and see and listen to live music. They were emotional about it. I just want to say in closing that this business is important to our area. It's certainly important to all the local musicians, and Dan and everyone there could not be more kind, amenable, or compliant. Let me remind you that these are real people in this business who rely on this business for their livelihood. And I'm sure and have every confidence that some sort of compromise can be reached to allow these folks to stay open and try to make a living doing what they do best. We've seen this location shuttered in the past, and it's now alive and thriving. I think we all need to figure out how to support this community, small business, in these trying times. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Susan, can we bring in Dan Moretti? Dan, you're in the meeting. And
yes, hello, Town Council, and thank you for the time to be able to speak on behalf of the Pump House. Many of you don't know me. I think Deborah Kessel might remember me from years ago. I was just a quick little history, 2 minutes, right? So I grew up in this area, and I been around for many years. I left, and I just came back 9 years ago. Currently, I'm a professor of music at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I live in Wakefield. And 5 years ago, I started First Sunday Jazz series at the Pump House on Sunday afternoons from like 4 to 8, 4 to 7. And it's been going great for the last 5 years. I agree with everything all the other supporters have said. I'm also a sound engineer and a recording person, and I know about sound levels. Walking on High Street today, a tractor trailer went by me at 87 decibels, okay? A car went by me at 70 decibels. So the sound, 60 dB is really not a lot of sound. We're just talking about certain frequencies travel differently. So this is something to remember. And the sound guy at the Pump House and Dan Collins are aware of this. Low frequencies travel far. As you know, if you ever had someone come by your house with their boom box going in their trunk, and you can feel your kitchen table shaking a little bit. So those are the kinds of frequencies that can be dealt with acoustically, and there's ways of doing this. And now that Dan has some funding from the COVID relief fund that came through the state, I think he's going to think about addressing these specifically. And while I played there this summer, over the period of time that I played there with different groups from all over the Northeast that I bring in, it's improved. The other thing I want to mention is that from an educational standpoint, I've done clinics in North Kingstown, South Kingstown, and Narragansett. And last year we hosted a couple of jazz jams for all the high school students there at the Pump House. So from a community standpoint, the obvious is the obvious. Okay, we don't want to lose the Pump House. We had a big fundraiser. They raised some money. We did this whole recording thing to get the awareness out there on YouTube. You can see all the artists and the community of musicians coming together to support the Pump House is pretty amazing. And I'm just, as you all know, it used to be the life blood of Wakefield, right? It used to pump water to Wakefield. And if you go to Sheldon's Furniture, he'll show you some of the old piping that used to come in all the way from the Pump House into Wakefield. So this historic, it should be a national landmark or even a renowned landmark. I was so happy that Dan Collins went in there and stuck his neck out and made this thing happen. Now, he was so lucky to get this other license from you folks to be able to go outside, because otherwise he would have been gone. I mean, I don't think he'd be there.
I'm going to ask you to finish up because you've gone over by a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry. So anyways, thank you for your patience, and as a resident of Wakefield and a person who's a music person lifelong with recordings out, this place is special. And I have to tell you, it's not just because I live here. So thank you for your time, and I hope you come to some kind of agreement with them so that we can make this thing work and move forward.
All right, thank you. Susan, can we bring in Sarah Perone?
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, and there you go. I can see.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm Zoom challenged today. I did want to mention, I do live on Tri-Pond Court, and I know we've already spoken from the street, but I kind of wanted to tag into something that Dan Moretti had actually said. One of the issues we've had, not just with that sound level at 60, is the bass. We feel the bass. It thumps through us. I've spoken with people in other neighborhoods who have heard it. Meadowbrook, Laurel Woods, back behind us, past Fagan Park up the hill on, I think it's Dionysus Way. people are hearing the bass, and that's the crux of our issue through this. The sound is at 60, but the low tones don't register the same way. When you drive on a road and a car pulls up next to you that has their stereo blasting, you hear the bass first. And it's annoying for that 2 minutes you're at a traffic light. And just as one of the other gentlemen said, Jerry Russo, it's a vacuum cleaner. But imagine a vacuum cleaner 8 hours a day when you're trying to watch TV, when your kids are trying to study, or when your kids are trying to sleep. I completely understand the pump house and the need to have something like this in the community. Someone had mentioned 50th birthday. I've hit that recently, and I threw my knee out dancing recently in February, just before lockdown, at a band. I'm not opposed to music. I love music, but I want to be able to live my life in peace and be able to work with Dan and his folks. We've seen it happen. It's not every concert, it's some concerts. So we know it's capable to be controlled. Dan's admitted it's difficult to control. We just want some kind of assistance with making sure that we don't have to be the ones that contact. That's the biggest issue. If 60 is the standard, whether or not we agree it should be 60, if 60 is the standard and they have been known to exceed it, we shouldn't have to be the ones. There should be some self-policing, some way to make sure that we're hitting that level. As the police chief said, when they come to our house, it's not always that level, but we're in a dead-end street. The police car drives down the road. The sound can be reduced. So I can't necessarily guarantee that when we called, it wasn't that higher level. It's just something that we want to work with them. We want to believe what we're hearing. We've seen the tents go up. We've seen the sound mitigation in place. It all started coming down at the beginning of October, and that's when the calls happened, and that's when the most recent notice of violation happened. So while we want to understand that now that they're able to get this equipment, it's going to be better, we're just concerned that it'll be temporary. We just want a consistent approach that we can all live in peace and be able to do this. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it, and I am sorry if I duplicated anything we've said in the past. I just want to make sure that it was understood.
All right, thank you. Susan, can we bring in Casey Charkowick? Hopefully I said that correctly. Casey, you're in the meeting again? Casey, you're unmuted and in the meeting. I don't know if you're muted now.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Great.
All right, sorry. I just wanted to follow up on a couple points.
Do me a favor, Casey, could I think you have something playing in the background that's echoing.
Okay, is it better now?
Much better.
Okay. There was some talk about the discrepancy in the sound meter readings that were taken. My understanding of this is that there's two readings, DBA and DBC. The police in the beginning were taking readings on the DBC reading, which registers higher because that's the reading that captures those lower frequency sounds that Sarah was mentioning. However, it's starting, I think, in the end of August, September, the police started taking readings in both DBA and DBC, and there are police reports in the record to this meeting. As I mentioned, 22 instances of sound meter readings taken on the DBA setting over 60. Really, honestly, if the sound level was 60, but there was a way to control the bass frequencies, which are not registered, I think everybody would be fine. Those bass frequencies don't show up. Or if the sound level was set to 60 at DBC, that would pick up the bass, and that would be something that we could live with. And the Sunday jazz events that were previously mentioned, those are great. We have no issue with it. We just, we've had two people who lived here for 15 years, no intention of moving. They both sold their homes and left because of this. So I understand that there's a need for the venue, but it's having a real impact on the neighborhood. That's all I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, can we bring in Marty Ballou? Marty, you are in the meeting. All you need to do is unmute.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm I'm a bass player, so I might be the one that's sending out some bass frequencies. I'm 60 years old. I graduated from South Kingston High School in '78, and I've been performing live music for a living since then. And I started working at the Pump House when they opened. So I just wanted to say a couple of things, and I hope it's not reiterating, but I just wanted to say that there are precious few places like the Pump House anywhere. And Dan and his family, they've created an environment for all types of music and with a real home feeling. It's a place where all forms of music are performed and welcomed, and it's anything but a rock venue. Jazz, classical music, folk music. I think this has all been said, so I'm not going to take up your time. But I just wanted to say I played there many times, and the thing I notice is the range of age of the patrons. You never see 70 somethings and 20 somethings at the same show, and that speaks to the quality of music. And I think the quality of commitment to the community that they have there. And I can say that I'm somebody that has played rock music there. I've played jazz music there. I played blues music there. And the thing I really want to say is that I've never seen the music turned up inappropriately. And I've never seen anybody at a show, complain or leave the Pump House because the music was too loud. I just wanted to make that statement. And also I'd like to say that what we have in the Pump House, it's a priceless opportunity to share musical arts with the community. But more than that, it's a place for the community to be that's not, behind a screen, or, it's with other people taking part in something that's immediate and expressive and uplifting. And I'd like to thank Dan Collins and his family, for having the courage to present that. And I just wanted to say that the Pump House is an art venue. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. All right. Susan, thank you for your help, by the way, Susan, as well. If you could bring in Jack Skiffington. Jack, you are in the meeting. All you need to do is unmute and you should be able to speak. Jack, oh, you muted yourself. If you could try to unmute yourself again, that'd be great.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you speak a little? We can hear you, but if you could speak a little closer to your microphone, that would
How
help.
about this? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm also a recording artist, so I have a microphone here as well. I do not live in South Kingstown. However, my entire family does, and of course, I have too for a long time. And I would just like to say that the Pump House has done more for me than I could ever ask of any venue or anywhere. When I first came, I went to school up in Vermont for music business industry. And when I came back down, I was still missing some credits for this diploma. And the Pump House actually gave me an internship for the sound engineering to complete those credits for that diploma. And as well as that, they've given me job opportunities. I'm also a musician. They've given me opportunities to play there for all sorts of things before COVID and after the fact too, this being one of the only places that allow music still to a crowd of people, which a lot of musicians, I believe, really appreciate. And as far as the sound, I know that I've worked really hard to help with the sound issues that they've had in all sorts of ways, including the decibel reading issues that the town was having with us. I've looked up in the manual about the how the decibel reader worked and was able to help figure that out. And I have found that with the Pump House being active and a large part of the community, a lot of people my age, as well as older, including my parents, have found this to be a really important place where the stress of everything else, being confined indoors or in kind of organized chaos and, stores and Walmart and things like that. It's a place where, even though there is still regulations, you can actually feel a little more at peace with everything going on, as well as enjoying the music. And I believe that is vital to our community and in a statewide, regional-wide sense as well. And I would also like to thank the town for giving me this time to say these things and allowing me to speak upon the Pump House.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Susan, if we could bring in Raphael. And Raphael, if you could pronounce your last name when you come in for the record. Raphael, you're in the meeting. All you need to do is unmute.
Let's see. Hello. Thank you, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting my testimony here. I want to echo what many have said here before.
Could you do me one quick favor and just state your last name as well?
Sure. Attias, Attias.
Thank you. I didn't want to mispronounce it.
No problem. Thank you. I'm a resident of North Kingstown, and I'm a professor at the Rhode Island School of Design. I teach digital media and, in some cases, sound design. I also have a recording studio and a design studio. So I want to echo what others have said about the decibels. I've been involved in the Pump House both as a musician and as a guitar builder. I met Dan when he was at the Shady Lee Mill, and I sort of witnessed the whole process of moving the guitar building studio and the concert venue down to the Pump House, and saw it sort of rebuilt and all the work they did to bring that place back to life. After having driven by it for years and seeing that beautiful building sitting empty there. I know that I've attended many shows there. I've also played many shows there with different bands. And it's remarkable how the comments from both audiences and musicians is that the sound is so well balanced. It's not loud. It is multi-age group that you see there, which is very unusual to see a real community place. It's not a rock club full of young people only. It's really a spectrum of ages. So I think they do so much for the community, and it's palpable. And many of the musicians that I talk to say that's one of their favorite venues to play, both because of the sound is so good. And I, this was when it was inside, but I think this has translated for the outside as well. I've played 3 or 4 shows there with different bands. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I think 3 or 4, I think at least 3 times the police were there measuring the dBs, and I'm pretty sure my understanding was that it was acceptable readings every single time. I know that the Pump House provides an uplifting community space in a safe manner, especially now during this lockdown time. I spoke to audiences that I never met before, and they were just so happy to be able to see live music again, to be outside in a safe manner. And I just want to say that Dan and Cynthia and everyone that is involved in running the Pump House are extremely thoughtful and considerate about what they do. And every time they make an improvement, they really consider, what it's doing, respecting the neighbors, respecting the ordinances. And I really want to say that it's just such a great asset for South Kingston to have the Pump House. I hope that this issue can be resolved and they're able to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, if you could bring in Lauren. And if Lauren, when you come in, if you could state your full name for the record, I'd appreciate it. Lauren, you are in the meeting and you have unmuted yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lauren Perone, and I'm 14 years old. My entire neighborhood is affected by this, and it's like our everyday weekend, and like we can't get away from it, so like we don't look forward to the weekend. So I was studying for an honors biology test on Sunday, October 20th, and I got an 84 on the test. I was unable to focus on my work when I was upstairs in my room, like right now, facing Fagan Park. It's on the farthest side of the house and the farthest house on the street. This isn't just affecting my life, it's affecting my school life, and I'm not able to focus in class, like when I'm studying for a test or something. We don't want to sit around and listen to the music every weekend, so we are basically forced to leave our house. We don't want to sit here. We don't want to listen to the music. It bothers us. We can hear the bass in our chest, and it bothers us. All these supporters of the Pump House can always come and go as they please. I can't leave. I live here. I have to deal with it all weekend, and I can't enjoy my own life. Some people on Facebook will say it's just a few hours, just deal with it. I can't. Some events are 2 to 9, and because of COVID, I can't go out. I don't ever want to move away from this house. I've lived in it all my life, and I really don't want to move. All of this support from this petition is like this love and support, so like our voices get drowned out. We're seen as bad people, and we can't get our point across because all these people are saying, oh, it's great and everything. We know that everybody loves Pump House. They come and support it and everything, but it seems like people aren't really listening, and like we're seen as bad guys, and we don't want to be. I hope this helped in your decision about the Pump House. Since I'm 14 years old, this is such a serious issue in my life. At least imagine being 14 years old again and being affected by COVID and this issue where I can't look forward to weekends every week. Thank you.
Lauren, thank you very much for your comments. I just wanted to say that I don't think anyone here feels like you guys are the bad guys. We're trying to find a solution that's going to work for everyone. You mentioned something that you can feel the bass in your heart. It seems like a lot of the comments that we've had tonight are talking more about bass potentially. So we're going to do everything we can to try to fix the situation and make everyone happy if we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, if you could bring Chris Dockray into the meeting.
How you guys doing?
Good.
All right, I'll start a video. I don't think I'm dressed appropriately for a town council meeting, but we are at Zoom. And I hate to follow, Lauren like that because obviously, how do you not have sympathy or empathy, I should say, for that position? Because, we all want to try to come to the best possible solution. And I just wanted to make a few points and to appeal to the people that live near there, but also to, the community at large. So I am from Charlestown, been around here a long time, visited the Pump House. And the first point is that this is a temporary type of a situation. COVID has uprooted all of our lives. It has done, to everyone. We're all trying to figure this all out as we go. And we all know, and we're acutely aware of how important it is right now to support small businesses. So that's, number one. Number two, we need to also support a positive outlet for the community, because right now it is very, very challenging as far as trying to find things that make us feel normal. And I guess those 2 points, those are the biggest things. And the other thing too, I guess, is the point, just as an aside, and again, you hate to do this following Lauren, and Sarah Perone also had some great words as well. But if you look at the number of people that are in support of the Pump House as compared to the small minority of people that really are saying, hey, listen, we got to do something. I really think that we have to, and many, many times in politics, we really look at the vocal minority as compared to the majority of the people that are really speaking up. And what I hope is that we can just try to figure out a way to stay within the respectful guidelines, to understand that this is a temporary situation, and to support the Pump House so they can still make money, so we don't kill another small business in this temporary, crazy COVID situation. Thank you guys very much.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Next, Susan, if we could bring in Matt Fraza. Matt, you are in the meeting. If you just unmute yourself, and if you want to be seen, you can hit the video as well.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, I can't say a whole lot more that hasn't been said already. In support of the Pump House, I am a neighbor as well, and I can hear the music to some extent. I'm down at about 1400 on Kingstown Road, but I would just like to add another voice in support of this place that's does so much for local musicians and for the people that love to spend time with them. I can understand how the neighbors might be upset by the consistency of it, but it's probably also good to keep in mind that we're going into November, December for the period of time that we're talking about for them to get their extension. And during those months, generally our windows are going to be closed and heaters are going to be running and stuff like that. I hope that some sort of compromise can be reached so that we can continue to have this great asset. The Pump House is something that makes a name for our town kind of far and wide, like all over the East Coast and beyond. And I think that's something we need to support, just like we support contemporary theater in Wakefield. This is another like very viable arts agency that presents diverse programming. I really think that we need to continue to find a way to support it and just make it so that the neighbors can live their lives as well. I know that there's a way to do that. Yeah, so let's keep it alive for Peacedale as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Next, if we could bring in Stephen Burke. Stephen, you are in the meeting. All you need to do is unmute yourself and you should be, there you go. We can see you and we can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you for the opportunity to address you all tonight. I am the person who wrote you a long letter this afternoon. So you all have it, and I know from prior experience that you'll all read it. I won't repeat what I had to say in the letter.
Stephen, if you could do me a quick favor, I don't know, would it be possible for you to speak closer to your microphone? Just want to make sure people can hear you.
It's occasionally a little hard for me to tell which microphone on my desk is actually active. Is
You
this
sound-
better, Vice President? Let's assume that I've already thanked you and reminded you that I sent you a letter this afternoon.
If I
hope
could
you'll-
interrupt for one moment, I received an email from you, Mr. Burke, but nothing was attached. So we just got the over the first page telling us you had attached
That's
something,
fine.
but I did not receive that letter. So if you'd like to tell us what was included, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. I would be most happy to do that. On that note, Mr. Cruz, if I may, I respectfully point out that Rule 10A, which is printed at the top of your agenda, says that you may increase the amount of time that people have for their comments, but it says nothing about your authority to decrease it. I say that with the greatest respect for you, sir, and nothing personal is intended. I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak for at least 5 minutes. If I go over, please let me know. The letter said, and I will summarize.
Mike.
Excuse me, this is Mike Gerstow, the town solicitor, and the section being referred to refers to the public comment section. This is an issue which technically does not have to be a public hearing. It's something that the council has to decide. However, of course, the council wants input from everyone on this issue. And so as a courtesy, we're allowing the public to comment, which is, in my opinion, the right thing to do. But you do have the authority to limit the time, and it would be grossly unfair to all the other individuals who have spoken to allow someone to speak for more than the 2 or 3 minutes that you have been allowing. So hopefully Mr. Burke can consolidate his thoughts into that time frame. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ursillo. I have in fact done that. However, it may be a little difficult for me to recant a 3-page letter that I now know that you did not get. And so I will try and do that now. Everyone has real concerns about the 60 decibel level. To be clear, the ordinance requires that no matter the decibel level and the sound, use a trumpet, for example, it has to decrease to the level of normal conversation, which is 60 decibels by the time it reaches the edge of the trumpet player's property, if that edge abuts a residential area. Most of the property does not abut a residential area, and for that, the limit is 70 decibels, not 60. There are any number of factors that complicate your decision tonight. Those include not only COVID, but also the fact that music is a constitutionally protected form of expression. Government interference is subject to significant scrutiny. Refusing to grant the extension will effectively put the pump house out of business since they have no other place to go. That will deprive the license that we have already granted to them of substantially all of its value, which raises other constitutional issues. Tens of thousands of dollars in grant money will go unspent and jobs will be lost and the arts will suffer. Now, I've reviewed what I believe are all of the narrative reports that were made by police officers who came to the pump house in response to complaints by neighbors. And I've identified the dates of those in my letter, which I'd be happy to send to you afterwards. And a number of things glare from those reports. First and foremost, very few measurements and very few measurements taken from the complainant's residence have exceeded 60 decibels measured at the edge of the property. None of the police reports reflect any adjustment for other ambient noise going on at the time. Now, that's a significant consideration if there is a major thoroughfare right next to the property, which, as you all know, there is. If you compare the sound of that thoroughfare to the sound of, say, a vacuum cleaner or a chainsaw or some of the other things that have been talked about tonight, you may find that very often it is as loud as those, as opposed to 60 decibels, which is a conversation. No police report discusses calibration of the machinery that was used to measure the amount of noise. And anyone who does this for a living knows that you don't calibrate an instrument by comparing it to somebody else's instrument unless you know the other person's instrument is properly calibrated, which there's nothing in the record to suggest actually happened here. So I strongly suggest that the members of the town council take a look at all of these alleged violations with a rather large grain of salt, because I don't think they're particularly reliable. You should also consider that the owners have spent tens of thousands of dollars in good faith trying to turn a live music venue into a sightless forum in order to placate their neighbors, and they have almost done it.
You've reached 3 minutes, so if you could finish up, I'd appreciate that.
I will do my very best, Mr. Vice President, and I really am acting in good faith here. They've worked with the neighbors, they've worked with the authorities, they've worked among themselves, brainstorming how best to get an answer that will quell the neighbors' concerns, while at the same time allowing them to continue to permit operations. And they are willing to continue to do that. There is a substantial amount of money available that can and will be earmarked for further soundproofing. However, to remove their business from the public wheel at this point in time would be a gross injustice. There has been one significant violation, and nobody denies that, but it was an aberration, a brief moment when they lost control of the band. And I have no doubt that they will be unable to do that again. I've talked to people at monthly open mics that I run. They've personally thanked me for allowing a forum like this to exist. These are not rock stars, members of the town council. These are local residents. They are teachers. They are parents. They are friends. They are neighbors. They need a place like this to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, can you bring in Brendan Ornis Morano? Brendan, you are in the meeting. You are unmuted, and all you have to do is speak. And if you want us to see you, you can hit the video button.
Where is the video button?
Should be in one of the corners, I think, top.
Bottom left.
Bottom left.
Bottom left.
You don't have to. It's but you can see where it says there's a mute button next to your mute button. There should be a video button.
I don't see it, but it's all right. So how you doing? Thank you very much for listening to what everyone is saying. I am the head sound engineer at the Pump House. I run every single show there, with the exception of maybe 3 shows. I had other people cover for me. All right, so it's 60 decibels at the property line of all of these residents that are complaining. It is not 60 decibels in their house, okay? So if they're standing on their front lawn, they will hear 60 decibels or maybe quote unquote feel bass. I also play bass. There is absolutely no way that they're feeling bass inside. I've done most of the measurements myself. Okay. I would like to also quickly just point out and apologize to the police department for the band, Mr. Joel Ewing Chow. I just wanted to say I'm sorry that that band, they
We lost Brendan for a second, I think. Brendan, if you want to try to unmute yourself, it looks like you might be back in the meeting.
All right. Hey, there I am. All right. Sorry about that. First of all, when people ask why we haven't done anything, making money in this industry is very hard pre-COVID. Making money during COVID is very, very hard. You know, we need this grant money that we did receive to be able to fix these problems. We can fix these problems that we're having with the town, or with the people on, you know, the one street there. The reason why we haven't put any permanent structures in as of yet is because we don't know if we're going to be allowed to. So why would we spend around $15,000 soundproofing this outdoor venue when we don't even know if we can move forward with it? To answer that question, that is why we haven't done anything, you know, that's permanent. Secondly, we've played one show. My band played it. We played one show past 9 o'clock. We played till 9:30, and that was in August. Every single show stops at 9 o'clock. Every single show. I promise you that. I'm in charge of the sound. I do not let it go past. I have 2 children. I own a house. My mom's a history teacher at South Kingstown High School. My stepfather runs a department at URI. I cannot lose this job. Okay. I wouldn't let this happen go past 9 because I can't have the Pump House shut down. It does not go past 9. Now, 60 decibels. Someone earlier mentioned that we use the other way of reading. So, I mean, the law states that so there's 2, it's a decibel reader, first of all, not a sound reader. It's a decibel reader, which is reads pressure, sound pressure in the air. It has to be in the ABA form. Here's a decibel reader right here. Okay. There's 2 ways of using it. Okay. There's one way that basically is the human ear in what the human ear hears. The other way amplifies the signal to pick up on bass. And it's basically the human ear doesn't hear at that register. The law states you do it at the level that the human ear hears, not basically what dogs hear. If you wanted to.
Brendan, I don't know if you were in the meeting in the very beginning, but we were trying to limit comments to 2 to 3 minutes. And you're
all right. I mean, I just want you to know I received a lot of flack personally because I'm the sound engineer there. you know? So, I mean, if anyone has any questions about how decibels work, about anything, I can answer that for you if you have any questions. I mean, I have to be 100% honest with you. I've heard a lot of lies come out of certain individuals' mouths who are opposed to us. We want to work with the community, trust me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. We don't want the pump house to be shut down. We don't want anyone in the neighborhood to feel uncomfortable. But I mean, we are a music venue that's butted up, you know, up against an industrial area, you know, where Loyal is, you know, the
Brian, my concern is we're really drifting well past the time period, and it's important that we be fair to everyone.
Does anyone have any questions though about sound? Because like I'm literally the person that can answer any of that stuff for you, or about any of that. So it's all my
I
equipment.
don't think any. I don't personally have any questions about sound right now, but if we know how to reach you. I think now, if we do.
Okay, I mean, all right, I've been working so hard to try to make everyone happy. I literally have anxiety attacks weekly because I'm trying to keep the sound down, and I'm just getting so much pressure from everyone. And we have kept it under 60 after the decibel reading, you know, calibrated properly.
I apologize. In order to be fair to everyone else, you've gone about 6 minutes. Can we, if we have time at the end, I'll let anyone else potentially come back. And
I would like to say something to the police officer because he got cut off when I started saying it. I was saying I wanted to apologize for that band that said, "Let's make it loud." I want you to know that I ran up to them and said, "What are you doing?" You know, they are never going to play there again. And I don't know why they said that. They were trying to just be cool or something. And I just want to apologize for that. Okay.
thank you.
That won't happen again. I
Thank you.
promise that.
Susan, can you bring in Devin Bender?
Hello?
Yes, Devin, you're in the meeting. We can see and hear you.
Sweet. I just wanted to say, I live on Railroad Street. I help out at the pump house. I teach ukulele lessons there. Before COVID, we had a ukulele group where I happen to be the youngest person there. I'm 30 years old. Everyone was kind of like late 40s up into 60s and 70s. And it provided a space for teaching ukulele to like the older crowd. It provided them a lot of confidence. When I lived in Woonsocket for about a year, and I would even come down, take the 3.5 hour bus commute just to come down to Wakefield to be a part of the art scene. I just want to say that the Pump House is definitely, it's not just a music venue. It's not a rock and roll venue. It's something very, very special. I want to take into consideration the neighbors and everyone's interest. And every time I would go up there, because I would have to walk over, I'd be approaching the stage from behind with the tent, with the soundproofing stuff. There were times when I didn't even know if the band was on yet, because as I was walking up, it was, pretty quiet until I came around and saw them up there. I would say just, yeah, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Devin. Susan, next we have Jessica Duncan, I believe. Jessica, you're in the meeting. All you have to do is unmute yourself.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You're a little faint, but if you could speak up a little bit, that'd probably be great.
Okay. If you have any issues, let me know. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this very important matter. I lived directly over the pump house with Dan for just shy of a year. I have a very demanding job. I often, by the time Friday rolls around, I don't really want to go right to watch a show. Not right away initially. I need to wind down and regroup, and I would often go right up to the small living space above the pump house, and I was able to unwind without any issue while there was a show already underway. I couldn't feel any bass, whether it be an outdoor show or an indoor show. I never had an issue with hearing the TV, whether it was an indoor show or an outdoor show. I often have work that I have to finish up over the weekend, during weekdays, if there's a show happening. Indoors, or pre-COVID days, there were shows Thursdays, most weeks, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And often I'd have to finish up work while there was a show underway, pre-COVID and also post-COVID. Again, I was able to do this without interference from sound. I did come across a small Swiss study that looked at the difference between the outdoor sound as opposed to indoor sound. And the findings were that going just indoors, even if the windows were open still, the sound level dropped within the home by 10 decibels. If that window was partially closed, that sound level dropped 16 decibels. If those windows were closed, the sound level dropped just shy of 30 decibels. If there's a 60 decibel reading at the edge of the property, within the home, it should be comparable to a library. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right. Susan, I think Deborah Grossman Garber is the next person. Deborah, you're in the meeting. I think you've been unmuted, or have you unmuted yourself? You should be able to speak. Deborah, we can see you in the meeting, but we can't hear you. I mean, we can see your name, not your video at this point, and we can't hear you speaking. So if you could try to fix your microphone. There you go. Try muting one more time and see if that works.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm Deborah Grossman Garber. My husband and I live in Kingston and are musicians and have supported the Pump House since its very early days. I represent and am on the board of the Kingston Chamber Music Festival. And I can't tell you how pleased we are to be able to work with the Pump House for holding classical concerts and chamber music concerts and bringing a whole array of community music devotees in. I have always been impressed by the desire to accommodate all people and to do the best job in observing rules. And I have been aware that there's been complaints from the neighbors for a long time now, actually, even during last winter, since early days, even with all the windows closed, even when we couldn't hear ourselves outside when we were in the parking lot. So I just want to suggest that someone look into perhaps another reason that the Pump House may not be valued in the neighborhood that it sits, and have that addressed. That said, we certainly are homeowners and believe in the value of being in a peaceful home. So I would hope that, and it seems that the council is tending toward finding a solution that could meet people in the middle and allow the pump house to continue with muffled sound outside through November and December. Some of the best musicians in the world from our Chamber Music Festival have played at the Pump House and have brought great acclaim to South Kingstown and the Pump House, and have carried home the news of our venue. So we hope that it will stay alive and that we will be able to bring back more musicians in subsequent years. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Deborah. Susan, next person we have is Christy. Christy, if you could pronounce your last name for the record, I'd appreciate it. You are currently muted. You just have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry, you can't see me. I'm in the dark. Sorry.
That's fine.
I'm trying to hide from my kids who are sleeping. I'll try and be quiet inside. Okay, I'm going to be real quick. I wasn't going to state what street I lived on because I was super nervous. But now that my neighbor who's 14 said she was on Tri Pond Court, I'm going to say it. So I just want to be really clear that we are in full support of the Pump House. I feel like we're like steering off course here. We really want to try to mitigate the base issue. And if somebody said that it wasn't coming into our home, trust me when I tell you, it hits our chest. It pumps into my chest most weekends. And that is the huge issue. We're talking about decibels at 60. Like, how can we fix the bass issue? I am in full support of live music. I've grown up with live music. I love it. I want my family to go to the Pump House. I want to bring my kids who are 4, 3, and 1 there and entertain them with it. I think it's amazing. The issue is the bass. We can't listen. We can't have a conversation outside in our backyard because the bass is pumping back there. That is the main concern here. We love the Pump House. We want it to continue. We want to support musicians. Some of my really good friends are musicians down in New York. They haven't worked in forever. Like, I think we're steering off course. So I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah. So if we can just try and fix that position, then I think a lot of this will go away. But we're not trying to, we want to support the Pump House. And I feel like people are thinking that we're not. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christy. Is there anyone in the attendees that hasn't spoken that would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand. I saw one hand go up and then go back down. So we're going to give it 15 more seconds to see if anyone raises their hand. Okay, that person keeps trying to raise their hand. All right, Susan, can you bring in the person labeled either LTURT? We've screen name LTURT. We've brought you into the meeting. If you could unmute yourself and identify yourself, please. You're currently still muted. You're now unmuted. We just need you to identify yourself. We can't hear your audio, so you might want to try adjusting your audio. LTURT, we still can't hear you. I would try muting yourself and then unmuting yourself one more time. All right. Susan, can you see how that, thank you. Oh, there we go. Now we can see you, but we can't hear you. You're still muted. Hold on a second. Susan, do we have any recommendations?
If I may, if you click on the little up arrow next to your microphone button in the lower left corner of your screen, it's going to give you microphone or speaker selections. Try using same as system, or try the microphone array.
So Bryant, this is Colleen. It may be that their computer does not have a microphone, so they may need to call in using a telephone.
Susan, can you give them instructions on how to call in?
I can. Let's see.
Turt, if you could put your thumb up if you can hear us. You can hear us? Okay.
Okay.
So
So,
we're gonna
you want to dial,
how to dial
I'm going to
in.
give you some dialing instructions. You're going to dial 1-929-205-6099. It's going to ask you for the meeting ID. You'll need to put in the numbers 407-751-247. And then once you connect, you'll dial *9 to raise your hand. And then *6 to unmute your telephone.
All right, Susan, we're going to give them a minute to try to dial in. Mike, in this case, what do you recommend in terms of amount of time?
So I would do this. If there are others that want to be heard, let's move on. And then we can always allow him to try at the end.
Yeah, the problem
He's
is that,
putting his thumb up.
yeah, we don't have, we only have someone that's already spoken, the sound engineer that wants to speak again. Currently.
Remind him of the 2 minutes.
Okay. All right, let's bring in, Susan, let's bring in Brendan, but we're gonna have to remind him, we're gonna have to keep him to a very strict 2 minutes. So,
Okay.
all right, Brendan,
Hi, can you hear me?
yes, we're gonna give you no more than 2 minutes though, okay?
Okay, no problem. Right. So the one thing I wanted to touch upon, which I didn't earlier, I kind of came out of nowhere when you guys asked me to speak. We've had complaints, and I think it was touched upon by the chamber music director. We have had complaints even when we were indoors. We've had complaints for a long time now. We've also had a lot of people say that we never intended to be a live music venue, that we were just supposed to be a luthier school. That isn't true. From day one, our intent was to be a live music venue that could operate 365 days a year. I believe that a number of residents don't like our presence, and I don't think there's anything we could do that will make them happy. We're fully willing to do what it takes to make them happy. We can't tell music to not have bass. You know, jazz music has bass, funk music, reggae, classical, you know, there's many instruments that, you know, the left hand of a piano is bass. So, and there are ways we can fix that with baffles and, you know, with this grant money, and we will do that, you know, but I'm not honestly convinced that the neighbors are going to be happy then, because they weren't happy when we were inside. We're outside now for COVID. They're not happy now.
Brendan, you have 20 seconds. Just wanted to let you know.
I mean, that's really all I have to say. I mean, I really appreciate letting me come back on again. This venue means more to me than just about anything next to my family. So I you know, please take into consideration that my livelihood is at stake here and my family's livelihood. And I've grown up in South Kingstown. I presently live in Wetchley. I own a house there, but I've been there since 6th grade. I went to URI. I majored in music there.
Brendan, you've
Yeah,
you're
thank you.
2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Susan, do you see that there's 2 phone numbers that called in? I'm assuming that one of those phone numbers is probably the person that we were trying to allow to speak earlier.
555 seems new.
Okay. Why don't we see if
That
we,
number is new.
right. So we're going to, we brought in the phone. We can't unmute them though, right? Or they have to mute themselves? How does that work on the phone?
I believe
asked
you
to
press
unmute.
*6 to unmute yourself.
Colleen, is there a way to ask the person to unmute?
I did.
Okay.
Yep, we said ask to unmute,
Yep.
which is the *6 on the phone.
So caller ending in digits 555, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay.
Hello.
All right, can you turn down your laptop?
Sure. Hold on 1 second, please. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly now.
Oh, yeah. My name is Mark Smith. I hear all these people out there talk about Tri Pine, and they live down the road on Kingstown Road or they live up the road at this place, or they live down at that place.
Hey,
Well,
Mark,
yes,
can I just interrupt you for one quick second? Were you the person
Sure.
that was on the video that couldn't speak on audio?
yes, I am, sir. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
But all I wanted to get across is all these people are complaining about this and that. But what the Collinsville here realizes, and they're not bringing it up, is I'm the closest person that lives to them. I live directly behind the place. If they open up their door, I can hear the music better than anyone around there. I have to turn my TV up to 50 just to hear anything when they're playing. And since this place has opened up, it has been nothing but a nuisance. It started out with the parking, and now it's up to this. And if you come by at night, these people ain't wearing face masks. I'm going to let you know that right now. So all the stuff they're giving you is a bunch of BS. Are you still there?
We're still here. We can hear you.
All right, so I'm just letting you know. So if the college saying they're doing this and they're doing that, the college are not doing nothing but kind of benefit themselves. Since they've been here, they've done destroyed our street. I have a great big puddle in front of my house. My son can't sleep at night because all they do is boom, boom, boom. Yes, the bass is terrible. I mean, I love music myself. I play it too. But if I play my music, I have cops down at my house at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon telling me to turn my music down. And I live right behind the place on Dam Street, which they have not even mentioned. The college didn't even mention Dam Street, but they say Tri-Pond, but we are right behind them. So if you wanted to turn the music down, if you can't turn it down, shut them down. As simple as that. Come by at nighttime and see how many people are wearing masks. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mike, because I let someone go twice, I should let Krista go one more time, or no?
Yeah, as long as it's something totally new that hasn't been brought up.
Krista, hopefully you can hear that. We're going to bring you into the meeting. Krista, you are in the meeting. All you need to do is unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, to Christy's point, I just wanted to say that we were talking about the November and December months. I know she said that they couldn't hear each other in the backyard, you know, in August or September, but we're talking about November and December when they're going to be inside and the windows and doors are going to be closed. And then to the last gentleman's point, I just want to say that we have volunteered there and we handed out masks to 2 folks who didn't have them. And there is someone who actually patrols the area and makes sure that people wear masks. They're not allowed to dance. They have to stay in their seats. They do have a great time, but these folks enforce the rules. And I've been there to see it and I've enforced them. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. All right, seeing no other comments from the attendees list. Brendan, we do see you, but we've already given you 2 times to speak, so I apologize. Actually, we're going to allow Sarah Perone to speak one more time. So Susan, if you can bring Sarah in.
Hi, thanks again. I just want to make 2 comments. Mark, thank you for your comments. We don't deny the fact that you are closer than any of us to the pump house. And I'm glad you spoke up. The only other thing I want to mention is where people keep saying we want to shut them down. 2 houses on the street have actually sold. One of the people that sold next to us were one of the people that called multiple times when the doors were closed because, or I should say when it was inside, because if the doors were open, the sound would just reach their house just by the angle they were at. So if anyone has any questions and if we're trying to shut it down, that's not the case. They moved as a result of it. Another house is on the market, and unfortunately where people say it's just a vocal few people, their house is on the market and they can't speak up because it's on the market, and that's not something they can do. So we don't have a lot of voices. We're not going around trying to convince people and tell all our friends to call in. We're doing it directly from us. And it's a small street. You got a letter from from Jason Fong at the top of the street saying that he's unfortunately had people pee in his yard. And the sound is loud there. It's not just a few of us. My property abuts the pump house. The readings that are taken are not at my property line with the pump house. It's actually in front of my house, and I am the house furthest down the road. So unfortunately, some of the readings are off. And I get that we have discussions and disputes about the decibel level, but I'm just hoping that we can find some kind of relief that satisfies all of us, that allows the music to continue and allows us to live our lives. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So we are completed with comments. Deb and Rory, hopefully you were able to take in all of what was said. Mike, in terms of this particular situation with so many people calling in and allowing people to speak, we didn't have to allow that to happen. We allowed it to happen because of the fact that it's the right thing to do, to listen to everyone.
Yeah, that's correct. This is an extension of a license, and you normally hear from the license holder.
Right.
But given this situation and the number of times it has come before you, it made sense for you to get as much information as possible from the public that would better inform your decision. So you are now at the point to decide, which of several directions you wish to go in with regard to the request before you is for the license to continue through December 31st. You have options. You can deny the request, you can grant the request, or you can grant the request with conditions. That's really, it's just like any other license. You've actually been through this before with a prior matter. It involved a liquor license with another establishment. So I would treat it the same way.
Okay. Thank you.
Michael, may I just correct that this is to extend it through December 8th at this point?
I'm sorry. Thank you for that. December 8th.
Thank you, Susan.
And I have some specific questions for the applicant. Can we bring him back in?
Sure. Dan, you're right back in the meeting. If you could unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm here. Can you see me?
We can hear you, not see you yet.
Yeah, because the host has stopped it. Okay. There we go.
Dan, how's it going? Rory Matthews.
Hi, Rory.
Now, I understand that you recently received notice that the state of Rhode Island will be giving you a grant of $30,000. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Can you provide us when exactly that notice was received?
It would be 3 days ago now.
Okay, so last Friday?
Yep.
Do you have any idea when you will receive the monies?
They said it'll be very quick dispersal. I'm hoping so, as I've already sort of put a down payment on a tent. I expect to get a call this week.
Okay, of the $30,000 you will be receiving, how much will be spent towards sound mitigation efforts?
We've already contracted a fence to be put up along the Tri-Pond and across Smith's property. That's going to be somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000. And we've already ordered a tent, which will also come to, I think, total about $18,000 for both of the tents that I've ordered.
Okay, can you just elaborate a little further on the tent and its use and how it will mitigate the sound, as well as the fence as well?
Sure thing. There will be 2 tents. One of them will cover the stage. They have vinyl sides to them, which dampen sound anyway, but We've been using insulated panels that we built, it's almost like a wall actually, that we've been putting up to block a lot of the base frequencies. The fence that's going to go up is going to be 2 feet taller than the 6-foot stockade fence that's there now. That's going to be also covered in a rubber material, which blocks bass and blocks actually all frequencies of noise. So I think that with the extra measures that we're going to take, we're going to completely kill that bass problem that the neighbors are talking about. The other tent is a big tent. It's going to be for the audience to be under. It's going to be about 80 feet by 30 feet. And it's going to be enough space in there to safely distance. There'll also be, one of the sides is going to be opened up for ventilation, and we'll still have food trucks available during these events. So we are intending on being able to stay open through December with your help. And we do absolutely plan to keep bringing down the noise levels through this course of action.
All right, it sounded like you alluded to this, but I just want to say it anyway. In your opinion, do you believe these actions will remedy the issues that the surrounding neighborhoods have voiced concern over?
I believe they will, yes.
Thank you.
Bob, you have your hand up, but one quick question before I forget. Dan, your answer to Rory regarding the fence tripod, and you said Smith, is that the person that was speaking earlier?
Yes, that's Mark Smith. He's my other neighbor behind me on Dam Street. I'll also be replacing that fence.
All right, thank you. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the council is aware and the public is aware. The Take It Outdoors grant program that the state put in place actually had 2 rounds. The first round, the town submitted an application on behalf of a number of businesses, including the Pump House. And Pump House will be receiving $97 from round 1. The $30,000 grant was direct from the state to the Pump House for $30,000. So there's actually more money. And we've talked about the $9,700 going to sound mitigation as well.
Just to clarify, you didn't mean to say $97. You meant to say $9,700?
$9,700, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And 97 wouldn't have gotten much mitigation.
I was like, they got a little bit of that other 75. All right. Deb, looks like you have something to say.
I do. So, Dan, are you using Inside at all at this point?
No, we're not.
Okay, so you have a 125 person capacity inside?
127, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
And the state right now, we're still in phase 3, right? So we're at 66% capacity. I don't know the math, but
I think for indoors that might be correct. Yeah.
I think 66% of your 127 is what you can accommodate indoors. So I
believe indoors, yes.
Right. So that's got to be fairly close to 100 people, right? That's what you can have outside.
I'm distracted there.
What is 66% of 127? Who's the math whiz? Rory.
About 75 off the top of my head. Just
okay. So I don't know. How come you're not inside?
I'm sorry. Someone's talking in my ear. Can you repeat that question?
Sure. I just wondered why you haven't moved it back inside at 66%.
Okay. Sorry. That's a simple question to answer. In front of the stage, there's also a rule for performance venues that you can't have anyone within 14 feet of that stage. So it pretty much kills the main area in my venue, which is the venue room, the stage room. It's about 20 feet long in front of the stage, so it doesn't allow people to actually be in that room during a performance.
So your 66% capacity would be greatly reduced if you went inside, is that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it'd be very difficult.
Okay. I know you've been trying to work with the neighbors, and my mission here is really to find some middle ground. So in the interest of full disclosure, I live within earshot. I do not hear the bass, but I can tell you exactly what song the band was playing at 6:15 on Saturday night. So I'm not bothered by it the way your immediate neighbors are, but I do hear it. So the 60 decibel level for the music, when someone says it's the sound of a vacuum cleaner, if there was a vacuum cleaner playing at the pump house, I wouldn't hear it, but I hear the bands.
That's not exactly what they're saying. It's the sound of a vacuum cleaner at your property. That's what 60 decibels would be. So if we had a vacuum cleaner on the stage, no, it would not reach that at your property.
No, no, it wouldn't. So I really do feel the neighbor's pain, right? I hear the 14-year-old girl who can't study. I'm bothered by that. So I'm going to try to find a way that we can come to some common ground here. No one, I haven't heard anyone in any emails, any phone calls I've gotten say to me, I want them shut down. There's not a soul in this town who doesn't value what you do. You've turned that building around. You've made it a destination. We're proud of you. But we need to find some common ground here. So I'll be looking, to say to you, school nights or work nights, Sunday through Thursday, can you live with a 7 p.m. finish Sunday through Thursday? Can we keep it at 9 o'clock on Friday and Saturday?
That would be an absolute yes.
Okay, so there's some compromises right there, I think. If we can try to, and maybe the 8 hours on Saturday is too much to ask of the neighbors. 1 to 9 is a long time. And I see you have that, you got it scheduled again for this weekend, a 1 to 9, which is not what you apply, which your license says 3 to 9 or something like that. But you've got 1 to 9 again. And that's a long time. So, I think going forward, we're going to need to address the length of the concerts. And I know from past experience, I know full well, bands are, you hire a band for 4 hours. 4 hours is pretty standard. So you've got multiple bands playing throughout the day, and it's wonderful. It's a festival atmosphere unless you live close by. So let's reduce the time. Let's keep the ending to 7 during the weeknights, Sunday through Thursday. Try to find a way to mitigate, to continue. So this weekend it was better, right? So you put up that, I saw you building a wall out there on Thursday or Friday. I saw you 2x4s and the rubber sides, and that seemed to help with the base. My concern is, so you have money from the state coming. I don't know how soon you're going to be able to get that fence put up. Hopefully, it's a concern, right? How soon can you get it? How soon can you get it up? How soon can we help the neighbors to be able to enjoy their own homes and kids be able to, study and go to bed at a reasonable hour and stop the bass from thumping in their chests?
That's definitely a valid question. The tent that I have put up over the stage right now is a temporary tent. It's another rental, and I'm gonna have it until I have a replacement for it. I won't take it down again until I have a replacement. The sound, mitigation that we did in that tent last weekend did work tremendously. We didn't have any noise violations. I don't think that we had any complaints. I'm not sure, I haven't heard. But absolutely going forward, I can compromise. We all want to compromise to make this a better situation for everyone. If long events on Saturdays are something that we have to shorten, that's another thing that we can talk about.
So that's where I'm at. I don't want to shut anybody down. I don't want to take anybody's livelihood away. I want to continue the good work the pump house provides in this town, but I think we can come to some compromises.
I agree.
Great, thank you.
Deb, I agree with a lot of what you said. I guess the question is how to enact that or what steps to take next?
Well, I think, Bryant, we could say we'll grant the extension to December 8th, so we're talking December 8th, and revisit. If we get complaints again, we're going to have to come back in, right? It's going to be, we have a little show cause hearing going without the formality of that, I guess. Let's take Dan at his word. He's going to do the best he can to mitigate the circumstances that are bothering the neighbors the most. And that's the base, right? So I would be willing to grant the extension as long as what I am proposing is adhered to. And if it's not, then we have to ask Dan to come back in.
When we say proposing, are you proposing the short?
I am proposing those things that we just talked about, the 7 o'clock stop for the music on Sunday to Thursday, keeping what he has put in place already, some kind of time frame to be given to us for the installation of the new fence, that sort of thing, once he knows when the money's coming. The insistence that the tent that's there now, the temporary tent, remains. I don't know. What else do you guys think? I don't want to stop him. I just want to help him, and I want to help the neighbors.
So Deb, are you suggesting that we leave the timeline in place currently, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 1 through 9 p.m., as long as that tent remains?
No, I did mention shortening. I think 4 hours on any given day is enough. I understand if this Saturday cannot be adjusted. You contracted and sold and all of that with the 1 to 9. I'll give him this Saturday, but going forward into November, I think 4 hours on any given day is ample. That's what any other club does, right? You go to a club and they have a band from 9 to 1. They don't have a band from noon to 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's going to harm him. I think it's going to help him remain open, and that's what we want.
Dan, a few questions just to follow up on that. Sure. If your business was limited to outdoor entertainment for only 4 hours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, how much would that cut into your income? Or would it be
quite a bit, actually, on Saturdays especially. Those are the days when people actually will come out for longer stretches of time, or if I can have 2 shows on that day, that cuts one of those shows out. So I'm not in favor of taking all of my days down to 4-hour events. I will absolutely be in favor of shortening events, but going from 8 hours down to 4 hours does cut out a substantial amount, especially on Saturdays.
Deb, are you more willing to go up to 6 hours?
I'm always willing to compromise, Rory. I'm okay with 6. If 4 is not agreeable to the 2 of you, if you're looking at 6, we haven't heard Bryant's thoughts yet. I think 4 is fine, especially as we go into this time of year, right? It's not summer, it's dark out at 4 o'clock. I think your business model is going to change anyway because of that. Number 1, because of the cold, and number 2, because it's dark at 4 o'clock starting next.
I'd like to be able to make that call. It's very possible that that might be true. That everything is going to sort of go at a sort of slower and smaller rate for these shows outdoors. I just don't know what to expect.
So how many people do you think you could have inside?
Inside the tent?
No. Inside your facility, inside the pump house. 50?
Maybe 40. Yeah, maybe 40 people safely.
I'd be agreeable. You want to put a band inside for another time frame on Saturday, go ahead. You're inside, right? But outside for 8 hours is too long. It's too long.
Right. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And I'm totally willing to take it down from there. I just think that 4 hours, it won't allow me to have two. I think I could do it with 5 or 6, but 4 is tight on a Saturday.
Are the bands playing 2 hours each now, Dan?
Hour and a half with break, and
So 5 hours would put you, right, because are they playing 40 on, 20 off? Is that what they're playing? Standard kind of
yeah, 45 to an hour set. Yep.
So 5 hours would give you 2 different bands.
Yes.
All right, I'm all right at 5.
Which would be ideal. Yep.
Okay, I'm okay at 5.
I'm okay at 5 for now as well, but I also think that we have to play this by ear a little bit and try to do as much as we can, take Dan at his word, and you know, address it again potentially if it needs to be addressed. I won't be on the council at that point, but I'm sure that the new council can take care of that.
So I think if we don't hear from the chief in the interim or the zoning official in the interim, we have Dan, or we have some kind of an agenda item on that December, whatever the meeting date is that closely comes to December 8th. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but and reevaluate at that point. Do you want to go further? And is it working? Right. We can.
The only other thought I had, Rob, when it comes to tents, are there concerns with fire, safety, et cetera?
There are, and all of the tents that the state grant money is going to purchase are running into the same issues. The state fire marshal and local fire marshals have to approve of the tent.
So the fact that it's a rental, that has to get approved too, right? On the rental side?
In theory, every tent that goes up should be reviewed by the fire marshal, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can we just double check?
They all have flame certification, the commercial tents do. So inside they'll have a little label, which the fire marshal comes and looks at, also has a serial number.
So Dan, did the fire marshal come and look at your rental?
Yes.
And Dan, once you get your new tents, will it be one continuous unit with the band and the spectators under one tent, or will you?
That's a possibility. I'm not really quite sure how the best way to heat a tent of that size is, and whether I'll need to heat the stage in a separate tent and have the audience under one, or if it's just going to be under one tent. I definitely need to have the 20 by 30 tent for the stage anyway, because when I open up in in the spring, I'm going to need to have just the covering for the stage available without the large tent. So that's why I'm ordering 2 tents. I'm trying to figure out what is the best, most efficient way to keep everyone safe and everyone warm out there.
So I guess I'll ask Mike or Rob, what do you suggest as far as reviewing any plans we make tonight?
You know, I would rely on administrative review, Deb. That's normally the way it's done. If in fact they run into issues, they bring it back to you. And just for a little bit of clarification, tonight you're obviously acting on a request for an extension. You're not taking away anyone's license. If in the middle, if you grant the extension with the conditions and the administration comes back to you and says there are issues, at that point it would become a show cause hearing, because you would then have an actual hearing to revoke something that you've given. Right now, you're simply extending something with conditions. So there's the distinction, but that's how I'd handle it. Leave it up to the administration, manager and his team, and I'm sure they'll let you know if there are issues.
Perfect.
All right, Deb, would you like to make a motion?
Oh.
Could I just add a few more thoughts quick?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So I just, Dan had asserted 4 hours is, he can't agree to that, that's obviously going to be detrimental to his business. It sounds like 5 hours is, hardly agreeable, very disinclined to want to do that. I think 6 hours is a good common ground. I'd like to propose that. Deb, I hope you come on board with that. Brian, you as well. I think their current license allows them to operate the entertainment outside 3 to 9. They're currently operating 1 to 9. I'd like to hold them to that 3 to 9 on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, and then of course with the new restrictions for the Sunday through Thursday that ends at 7 p.m.
I'm more of the thought of like what Deb was trying to do, find a common middle ground in terms of 4 hours. I was willing to go to 5. I'm not sure if I'm willing to go to 6, unfortunately, at this time.
I know Dan can put 2 bands in there in 5 hours. He told us so. And you can't get 3 in 6. So I think 5 is where I'm comfortable with right now.
So if I can just get a summary, so we're trying to keep track here. The conditions that I've got listed at this point are ending of concerts on Sunday through Thursday at 7 p.m., ending shows on Friday and Saturday by 9 p.m., 5 hours maximum on any one day. The tent that is currently over the band has to stay over the band. And the 6-foot fence will be replaced with an 8-foot fence at the earliest possible time.
Can you specify the Tri-Pond neighborhood, I think, fence and the other fence? I forget what street.
I've already commissioned the fence for the Tri-Pond wall. I have 2 fences that I own. I haven't gotten a quote on Mark Smith's side of the yard. So at this time, I'm willing to commit to the Tri-Pond neighborhood's fence. And I will have that done as soon as possible. In fact, it's already been put in motion.
Now the other fence, so did you have a particular idea of what that was going to cost when you spoke of it earlier?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, yeah, you mentioned
yes.
earlier.
I assumed that it would be about the same amount of money. I mean, it's $10,000 right now to do the Tri-Pond fence with soundproofing. But I don't know. I haven't gotten the full quote. We were just talking about it today.
Okay. But are you saying that you're not willing or willing to entertain?
I'm absolutely willing and will put both fences in. But right now, without a number, I can only commit to doing Tri-Pond.
All right.
So if we extend right now through December 8th, what happens on December 8th or December 9th?
So the council does have later in the agenda tonight a notice of public hearing that is going to be considered to extend the dates associated with all of the outdoor service area permits beyond December 8th. December 8th is the termination based on the ordinance as it exists now. The notice of public hearing will notice a hearing that allows the council, at which the council will hear testimony and will be able to make a decision whether or not to extend that to some later date. We've proposed in the notice of public hearing that date be extended to March 31st so that you can allow people to continue to operate outdoors for as long as possible.
And Mr. Collins will be included in that, his license or his permit to operate post December 8th would be included in that extension?
The council
March 31st?
The council will have the opportunity to draft an ordinance that, you know, is tailored to the needs of the community. If you are going to review outdoor entertainment venues different than you have restaurants that have no outdoor entertainment, you can do that. It really isn't a thing I can tell you because you've got to have that conversation.
Okay. So,
Deb, if I could help, this is Mike Ursullo again. If the motion tonight's through December 8th, it will be through December 8th, and it will not continue unless the council takes action on this particular venue. May not affect others, but on this one, you're making a statement through December 8th. Now, assuming everything goes as planned, I would then see no reason why the council would have any cause not to continue it. But the date for tonight would be December 8th.
Okay, understood.
All right. So going back to, I guess, the three of us currently, does anyone else of the council have anything to say at this point, or are we going to suggest that Deb make the motion that she was going to make?
All right, so I will make that motion that we continue the pump house permit to operate through December 8th with the following conditions, right? And Rob, can you read the list, please, or someone make sure I don't forget anything?
Sure. Operations and no concerts after 7 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday. Last show will end on Friday and Saturday by 9 p.m. On any given day, concerts shall be limited to no more than 5 hours. The tent currently over the band stage will be continued for as long as outdoor service is continued. And the current 6-foot fence between the pump house property and the adjoining properties on Tri Pond Court will be replaced with an 8-foot ring fence.
So that is my motion.
Can I ask a quick question? This motion really deals with everything on the outside. Do we want to differentiate if they decide to have smaller gatherings on the inside at this point?
No, they're already permitted to do inside. All this license does is gives them outside capability.
I just wanted to make sure they could still do stuff on the inside.
Yes, they could. They absolutely can, as can anyone.
All right. I'll second that motion. We're going to do a roll call, Susan, please, just so we have it on record. So I seconded that motion. All those in favor, and we're going to go by roll call. I'll go myself. I vote aye.
I will take the roll call. Council Vice President DeCruz,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelso,
Aye.
Councilman McEntee.
Aye.
All right. So
The vote is unanimous.
all right. Thank you. All right. Can you bring back into the
Thank you,
meeting?
Dan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Can you bring back into the meeting Abel Collins and Joe Veely?
We're good. All right. Hello again, everybody. All right. That was really interesting getting to watch the council operate that. Great job, everyone. Good discussion. That brings us at this point to item 7 on the agenda, communications. 7E are emails from Susan Hines and Deborah McNally concerning events at Lavender Waves Farm and a moratorium on farm event permits. We've received that. We've received many communications on this item in the past as well. Is there anyone here in the meeting to speak on this item? I see a hand raised. Phone number ending in 867. You can bring them in. And you've been brought into the meeting. You're going to need to hit *6 to unmute yourself. And when you join the meeting, please, if you're listening to us on any other device, just mute that device to avoid feedback.
This is Casey Charkwick. My hand was raised for the previous issue, so I have nothing to add on this one, but the only thing I'll point out is the town council has provided no objective criteria to enforce the restrictions, and the applicant didn't adhere to the previous ones. That's all. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Charkwick. All right. Is there anyone here to speak on item 7E? Susan Hines, can we bring her in? All right, Susan, you've been brought into the meeting. You are now unmuted. Oh, you've muted yourself again. Click that microphone one more time. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
And if you want to be seen by us, you can click on that little video camera.
Hi, I just wanted to briefly address the town council. It appears from the last planning committee meeting that the wheels are starting to turn in recognition of the fact that the ordinance for allowing farm events with special permits should perhaps be revisited. And I wanted to ask the members of the town council what they think the time parameters would be. I realize that this is a very important thing that can't be rushed, but I spoke with Jay Parker today, and he thinks that it's going to maybe go to the work session of the next planning committee meeting, which I guess would be 2 weeks from tomorrow. And I'd like to get an idea of what we might expect.
Rob, you spoke during the,
Yeah, I've spoken to the director of planning. It's very hard to say. I mean, they've got to sort of talk it through and sort of figure out what they think makes sense. If you had an absolute unanimity of opinion among members of the planning board and there was nothing to be worked out through discussion in terms of the recommendation on the change in policy, the process would be quick within weeks or a couple of months. If you don't have a unanimity of opinion and they've got to work through issues, it could take quite a bit of time to sort of figure out what they think is the right policy to strike on. An all-out moratorium with no events on any farm in South Kingstown seems highly unlikely. It seems, based on the opinion of the town solicitor, to be contradictory to state law. So that's not likely to happen. We're likely in a place where the planning board is really going to want to have some conversations about this.
And will all of those be public? Is that's part of the work agenda right now, right? Where it would be?
All planning board work sessions are public and will be visible to the public, yes.
Okay, and does the public have an opportunity to speak, or is it just we watch?
So the planning board typically does allow, although they don't necessarily have to, they do allow members of the public who are in the room or in the Zoom meeting to participate.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yes, Susan, thank you. All right, so it might be in order to make a motion to send this to the planning board as we've sent those previous.
this is Bryant. I'll make a motion that we send item E70 to the planning board.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
All right, motion from Bryant, second from Deb. Is there any further discussion? Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to 7G, an email dated October 19th, 2020 from Pam Wu about Small Business Saturday, the Coalition and Women Impacting Public Policy requesting a proclamation for Small Business Saturday in South Kingstown. We have received that. What would we like to do?
This is Bryant. I'd like to make a motion that we observe Small Business Saturday in the town of South Kingstown. I don't have the actual date in front of me, but
I think that's probably enough. Go on.
Rory McEntee, I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion from Bryant, second from Rory. Is there a discussion on this item? I think it's a great idea. Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item K. Emails dated October 13th, October 21st, October 22nd from Dan Collins, owner of the Pump House Music Works. Dated October 19th, 2020 from Jason Fong. Dated October 21st, 2020 from Jessica Duncan. And October 22nd, 2020 from Brian Richard, Sons of Liberty, concerning mitigation of noise and traffic issues related to outdoor operations at Pump House, are received and placed on file. I will recuse myself from this discussion as well.
I'll just point out that you actually combined those two items, so you can just pass over this.
Right.
All righty, we will do that then. Item 8 is comments from interested citizens. So if you would like to make a comment, if you are on your phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. Otherwise, if you're on your computer, you can hit that little icon with your hand, and that'll raise your hand, and we'll call on people in the order in which they raise their hand. Seeing no comments at this point, are there comments from council members? All right, that might be a first. Let's move along to the item 9, town manager's report.
I will be very brief tonight. Just one thing that I did want to let the council know about, we have received notification that the town has received funding under the second round of the Take It Outdoors grant, bringing our total for the town grants to $75,000. Those monies will help local businesses purchase things like tents and heaters and lights so that they can continue to do business in the darker and colder months ahead, and still do that outside where the ventilation is good and the risk of COVID is reduced because the ventilation is good.
I was in one of our neighboring towns where they've already purchased a lot of the outdoor heaters.
We have not yet received our money from the state. We keep in our account, and it has not yet hit our account. So we keep checking. We keep calling.
My only concern is I don't want there to be a supply issue, I guess.
There's a bit of a supply issue for everybody. What we have found and what we've sort of encouraged, although this is a little nerve-wracking, the folks who were requestors, whose requests constituted the grant application, have identified sources and have put folks on notice that they will be placing the orders. So I think we are in pretty good shape. Hopefully everything works out, but I haven't told people to go out and buy, hoping that we're going to be reimbursed because we don't have the money in the account. So as soon as it hits the account, folks know who they're buying from, and I think we should be very quick to the finish line once the money is in hand, but it's not in hand as of this afternoon.
Thank you.
I will point out that the COVID-19 situation locally and across the state is not trending in the right direction. We are seeing an increase in hospitalization statewide. We've seen an increase in the numbers of cases here in South Kingstown. We're now in the 190s. For a long time, up until a few weeks ago, we're in the 130s. So we've seen a significant increase locally. We are seeing more cases and presumptive cases among the town's workforce as well. So we're not where we really want to be with COVID. One of the things that we've done in the town government to deal with the fact that we are seeing increased cases is we've backed away from what was our plan to just open up the doors and let folks start coming into town hall. Town hall in particular is a tough building because there's only one entrance and it's on a thoroughfare corridor. So anybody walking from the annex to the manager's office or the clerk's office, anyone walking from the clerk's office to the assessor's office has to go through a choke point right at that front door. And we've monitored what goes on when the doors are opened. And it's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 or 6 people stacking up in the little foyer into the building right there. It's just not a great flow of people into that building. So we've got a greeter who is sitting at the old switchboard at the front door, who gets up, and if somebody's knocking on the door, talks to them, finds out where they need to go, and then escorts them to the office after checking to make sure that there isn't a stack of people already in the office. And the greeter is also sort of handling phone calls and doing some odd jobs for the clerk's office. Working out very well. I think that the quality of the service that folks are receiving is as high as it would be if the doors were completely open, but it does require the dialing of a phone number or the knocking on the door, which isn't ideal. It's not what I'd like to have going on at Town Hall, but it is working. We also have kept folks on our reduced attendance in Town Hall, trying to keep it to 1 or 2 people in the office on any given day, because again, the fewer contacts we have, the fewer chances there are for transmission. And what we're seeing in the Northeast, what we're seeing in Rhode Island right now is that the transmissions are not coming from sort of large gatherings. It's not the beach parties or that sort of thing. It's not the college frat parties. What we're seeing now is the transmissions are small group transmissions. It's a few friends who get together, go out to dinner, and take the mask off at the restaurant. It's family members who have not seen one another for a while who get together. It's small group transmissions that really is the challenge right now. So again, it's workplace stuff that I worry about. It's the number of small interactions between people who leave our offices and go home for the night and may stop off, to pick something up at the convenience store and then come in the morning not knowing that they're now a carrier. So we really, it's not going to be a good winter by all indicators, and we're doing what we can. I'm going to end it there. I don't mean to be depressing folks with COVID-19 thoughts, so I'm gonna end the manager's report there, unless there are any questions.
I have a question, or just something that I think that it would be helpful if you could share with the public, or if Susan can do so. If we just remind people about voting at Town Hall and what the hours are and what the deadlines are, et cetera.
Sure, I will let Susan do that.
Okay, we are currently conducting in-person emergency voting in the communications building at the Town Hall parking lot. The waiting line is outside. The number of people at a time in the building itself is limited. The lines are moving very well. There's not a long wait unless there's a long line. But the hours are 8:30 to 4:30 for the remainder of this week. On Monday, which is the day before the election, the voting ends promptly at 4 o'clock. You need to have an ID and you need to wear a mask. And you cannot have applied for a mail ballot, because if you have, you are not able to do emergency voting. We ask that you vote your mail ballot, bring it to the town hall, put it in our mail ballot drop box. The state is retrieving those ballots from us every other day, and they are being brought up to their facility to be processed.
Susan, I have one clarifying question. So it's from 8:30 to 4:30. Let's say I'm in line at 4:25. I'll still get to vote?
Yes, it's just like at the polling place when the polls close at 8 o'clock at night. Anyone in line at 8 o'clock is able to stay in the building and vote. Same thing, anybody who is in line at 4:30, we would staff someone at the very end of the line indicating that that is all the people that we would take for that day, and then we would process those voters until they're finished.
Okay, thank you very much.
Susan, how many people have voted in person emergency?
Over 3,000. Over 3,000, yes. We're averaging probably 350 a day I think we did 378 today.
That's great. So it should alleviate the lines at the polls next Tuesday. So that's good. That's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Rob? All right, very good. That brings us to item 10 on the agenda, appointments.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to appoint Paul Jordan to the planning board.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
We have a motion from Rory, a second from Deb. Discussion.
Joe Veely, I think that we had a lot of great applicants for this position. I think Mr. Jordan was one of them. I still feel that we're underrepresented in the business community. I think that some of the qualifications that Paul Jordan has, we already have, pretty deep on that committee. Having said that, I've said for 6 years, anytime a volunteer comes forward, I would never vote no. So I can support Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Other discussion? I think we did have a lot of candidates come forward for planning board. Lucky we're very well represented. We do have folks from the business community, folks from general community. Appreciate Mr. Jordan's experience with GIS, critical tool for our planning department. I think that would be useful. And I appreciate that he has experience on the Affordable Housing Collaborative previously. That was interesting to hear. So I'm happy to support his candidacy as well. I guess we'll take the roll. Yeah.
Council President Collins,
Aye.
Council Vice President DeCruz. You're muted.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kelso.
Aye.
Councilman McEntee.
Aye.
Councilman Veely.
Aye.
That is a unanimous appointment.
Do we want to consider appointments for the library board?
Sure. So I'll make a resolution to reappoint Donna Gilton and Elizabeth Kroll to the Library Board of Trustees for a term to expire July of 2023.
This is Bryant. I'll second that motion.
A motion from Joe, a second from Bryant. Any discussion? Candidates? I think they were clearly both very enthusiastic about their time serving so far on the board, and I'm sure they'll do a great job moving forward. We'll take the roll for them as well.
Council President Collins.
Aye.
Council Vice President DeCruz.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kelso.
Aye.
Councilman McEntee.
Aye.
Councilman Veely.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you all. That brings us to item 11, new business. 11F is a resolution authorizing a joint award of bid to Morton Salt and of North Wicker Drive, Chicago, for winter road salt at a unit price of $55.44 per ton delivered for the fiscal year 2020-2021, in addition to an award of bid to Champion Salt of Schutz Road, Maryland Heights, Maryland, for winter road salt at a unit price of $50.01 per ton delivered fiscal year 2020 through 2021, further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager.
Joe Veely, motion to approve 11F.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
Motion from Joe, second from Deb. Is there any discussion? It's a little unusual to have two awardees, but this has been done in the past. The Director of Public Services will sort of play it on by ear on which vendor to go with, depending on who has the salt available at the time of need. All right. Is there anyone opposed to this? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13G is a resolution authorizing an award of contract to Beehive Industries of Lincoln, Nebraska for an asset management software system and annual service contract in accordance with Beehive's asset management proposal, further detailed in a memo from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated October 19th, 2020. And I know this is an exciting development for town staff. So Rob, if you wanted to give a little background on it. You are muted at the moment.
Sorry, this is a software package that the folks at the various departments have been looking forward to being able to put in place for a long time. We have a number of departments that currently run standalone capital maintenance and capital tracking, capital management software packages, but there's nothing that has cross-departmental functionality. And this software package will allow us to have one place where all of us can go to look to see, you know, when was the truck maintained last, when was the oil changed last, and at the same time look at all of our, you know, physical facilities. When was the roof put on the building last? What was the company that did that work? It's going to be a really wonderful tool for everybody to be able to use, particularly since this software is GIS based and will allow you to do it all by pointing and clicking at a map. So you'll be able to see how many trucks are housed at any town facility on any given day. In theory, we can use this to do management of long-term and short-term capital, you know, maintenance and deployment and all sorts of neat things. This is a really neat software package.
Joe Veely, a motion to approve 11G.
Rory McEntee, I'll second that motion.
Motion from Joe, second from Rory. Did we already have a motion and a second on this? Maybe I'm just, anyway. All right, we have a motion second. Was there any discussion? All right, is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13H is a resolution authorizing an amendment of an award of bid originally granted on October 9th, 2018 to Smithco Oil Service. This is for number 2 heating oil and maintenance for the town and school department for a period of November 1st, 2020 through October 31st, 2021, according to the terms and conditions of the bid specifications with the following price schedules, further described in a memo from the facility superintendent to the town manager dated October 20th. And you can read those various prices on the agenda, 11 cents per gallon on top of the price per delivery, I believe, and the other stuff. Is there a motion on this?
This is Bryant. I'll make a motion to approve item 11H.
Or 11. Wow.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion from Bryant, second from Deb. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries. 11I is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice a public hearing relative to proposed amendments to the town code, chapter 9, licenses and miscellaneous business regulations, section 9-21, temporary expansion of licensed premises for restaurants, as shown on exhibit. So I hear a motion.
This is Deb Kelso. I'll make a motion that we approve item 11I. Is it I we're on? Yes, I. Aye.
Rory McEntee, I'll second that motion.
Motion from Deb, second from Rory. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? Very good. That motion carries unanimously as well. Item J is a resolution ratifying Executive Order 2020-02, parentheses, Fifth Amendment, dated October 14th, 2020, as is shown on Exhibit 2 of the agenda. Rob, why don't you just tell us what that is? You are muted.
Sorry, this is actually a ratification of an extension of the local executive order that mirrors the governor's extended order on travel. So it limits gatherings commensurate with what the governor's order, which is now 2079, which is a September 25th, I think, extension of the previous one. This was actually going way back. This was one of the original gubernatorial executive orders, and it's one of the earliest ones we put in place here in South Kingstown. It just mirrors the limits on the size of gatherings, and it requires quarantine for people coming in from hotspots.
Thank you.
Deb Kelso, motion to approve item 11J.
This is Brian. I'll second that.
Motion from Deb, second from Bryant. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And item K is a resolution authorizing that a letter be sent to Governor Gina Raimondo expressing the town's concerns regarding the expansion of hunting at the Trustham Pond and Stedman units of the John H. Chafee National Wildlife.
Deb Kelso, motion to approve item 11K.
Brian, second.
All right, I think Bryant beat you to the punch, Roy. So that is motion from Deb, second from Bryant. Is there any discussion? All right, this is something we've heard a lot about from residents who are rightfully concerned. So I'm happy to support this one as well. Is there anyone opposed? Very well, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the end of the regular business agenda. There is item 12 listed on this agenda, which is for a closed executive session, but that was placed on the agenda by accident this week. So I would seek a motion to continue that to the next meeting.
This is Brian. I'll make a motion to continue item number 12 to the next meeting.
Deb Kelso, I'll second that.
We have a motion from Bryant, a second from Deb. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? Good, that motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to the end of the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Bryant.
Motion from Deb, second from Bryant. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? Good. Well, thank you all for partaking. This meeting is done. Have a good night.